Chapter 269. Done. Li Zongjio returned to the long queue with the prepared vermicelli acidic solution in hand. He was here to hand in his homework. The efficiency is really slow. Most of the time is wasted waiting in line. Li Zongjio couldn't help but complain when he saw the situation. After waiting in line for half a day, Li Zongjio finally arrived in front of the old man. My mission is complete. Li Zongjio placed the vermicelli acidic solution on the table. Oh, so fast. The old man was obviously surprised. Having a photographic memory was basically a normal ability. He was the one who gave Li Zongjio the number, so he knew that it would take at least a day to prepare the solution. Not only did it have to be done well, it had to be done accurately. This was the most important thing. If the amount of herbs used was too light or too heavy, it would cause problems and even death. The old man opened the jar that Li Zongjio brought. After smelling it, he nodded. It is indeed 1 in 10,000. That's right. Give me your number. Then the old man gave Li Zongjio a round plate. Number 437 was written on it. This is your number. The second round of the test will be held in 3 days at the Western City's herb forest. You just have to bring this number with you to report. Okay. 3 days later, at the Western City's herb forest. Li Zongjio noted it down. He looked at the sky and realized that it was almost dark. I've wasted a day here. He couldn't help but shake his head. However, in the Pleasant Arrival Inn, there were also people who were extremely angry. Motherfucker, where the hell is this brat hiding? One of Beiho Liang's subordinates couldn't help but say. They came early in the morning to block Li Zongjio, but when they arrived, the waiter told them that he had already left. So they decided to wait here. Beiho Liang, in order to promote his own reputation, had also found many people to ensure that nothing would go wrong. However, this group of people had an aggressive aura within the Pleasant Arrival Inn. He sat there for an entire day. As long as there were guests, they were all chased away. If it were anyone else, the Pleasant Arrival Inn's shopkeeper would have already sent people to chase them out. However, the person that was brought over was the Bei family's eldest young master, Beiho Liang. This kind of person was not someone they could easily provoke. Even the people behind the Pleasant Arrival Inn did not dare to forcibly contend against Beiho Liang. Thus, for the sake of settling this matter, they sat there and watched as Beiho Liang waited. He was even served good tea and water. This situation was much better than yesterday's situation. The old servant by Zhang Hushuan's side was even more arrogant than the day before. He looked coldly at the shopkeeper and the others who tried to stop them yesterday. At the same time he sneered. Now these people know how powerful our young master is. Their Zhang family had struggled for so many decades with great difficulty, and only this kind of genius had appeared. Thus this old servant was also very proud. Yesterday, he had been continuously bullied and chased away several times. This time, when Li Zongjio returned, he would definitely let them know how powerful our young master is. Originally, this first group of people had only come to stop them and trap them. Otherwise, they would capture them and bring them to Beiho Liang and the others. However, after waiting for a long time and not seeing anyone arrive, they came personally. This was also to give this Sun Crane some face. They wanted to tell these people that this Sun Crane was already standing on Beiho Liang's side, and the others had to stand aside. If they wanted to rope in this Sun Crane, then they would have to consider Beiho Liang's side. If Beiho Liang was unhappy, then a storm could erupt at any time. Even if Beiho Liang personally came to wait, and even sent people to scout the surroundings in preparation to capture Li Zongjio, they did not see anyone after searching for half a day. There was not much news. Thus the group of people waited here. Later, in order to ease the atmosphere, the innkeeper ordered the kitchen to cook several tables of delicious food and serve it to these people for free. Let's eat first. Beiho Liang also knew that waiting like this was not a good thing. With so many people here with empty stomachs, they had to eat something. This innkeeper knew how to conduct himself. Thus, the group of more than 20 people was divided into 5 tables and started to eat. After eating lunch, they ate dinner. Seeing that the day was about to end, Beiho Liang was already impatient. Beiho Liang was already somewhat impatient. and he was prepared to utilize his family's influence to search for Li Zongjiu's tracks. However, at this moment, a person walked in from the entrance of the inn. "Waiter, bring a table of dishes and 2 jugs of wine." Li Zongjiu casually found an empty table and sat down. He could not help but raise his head to look at Zhang Hexuan, Beihou Liang and the others, because Li Zongjiu's seat just happened to be opposite them. Looking at him like this also gave off a feeling of provocation, because Li Zongjiu did not recognize them at all. However, Li Zongjiu knew that these people might be looking for trouble, but he did not know these people. Most of the people who offended him had already been killed by him. Usually, they would not be able to live until now. Thus, Li Zongjiu did not mind. "You guys look for trouble, I'll eat my food." Coming right up." The innkeeper looked at Li Zongjiu, who sat down in front of him, and was instantly stunned. Could it be that this kid was blind? There were so many angry Vajras sitting across from him, but he pretended not to see them. He just sat there and ordered food and drinks. He was actually ignoring all these people in front of him. This was too cool. The person in front of him was the eldest young master of the Bei family. Li Zongjiu took out a pair of chopsticks and placed it on the table. "Let's start with a plate of peanuts." Li Zongjiu said. "You brat, you actually have the guts to come back. You've made us wait for a long time. Let's see where you can escape to today. Let's see how long you can wait." The old servant next to Zhang Hexuan was the first to make things difficult for Li Zongjiu. Meanwhile, Zhang Hexuan also minded his own business and drank his wine. He looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him with a mocking expression, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. His eyes seemed to be saying, "Kid, you already knew that you would end up like this today. Even if you regret it now, it's too late." "Is this the person?" Beihou Liang asked. "Yes, it's him." The old servant next to Zhang Hexuan gritted his teeth and said, if it were not for the fact that there were so many people around, he would have rushed up and slammed Li Zongjiu to the ground. "Hee brother, I'm afraid you won't be able to eat peanuts today." Beihou Liang stood up. At the same time, he waved his hand, and a flying knife flew out from his sleeve towards Li Zongjiu. Chapter 270. Flying Dagger. Seeing this, the people present all revealed astonished gazes. In the Black North giant city, other than having a famous identity, Beihou Liang's flying dagger technique also made people click their tongues in wonder. That was because the flying dagger was a hidden weapon. Its ranking was not high, because the flying dagger technique was not considered a hidden weapon. It was large in size and had a slow speed. It was more like a signboard that he showed off when he was trying to show off. However, Beihou Liang's flying dagger technique was known to be able to kill once it saw blood. Every time the flying dagger technique was used, it would be able to hit the target with 100% accuracy, completely piercing through the opponent's throat. It was because of this amazing battle record that made people want to see Beihou Liang's flying dagger technique. However, under normal circumstances, Beihou Liang was not willing to use the flying dagger technique, because once the flying dagger technique was used, it must see blood. In fact, there were very few people who were able to see Beihou Liang's flying dagger technique. Now, facing Li Zongjiu, Beihou Liang displayed the flying dagger technique in front of everyone. Everyone felt incomparably happy and excited that they were able to see this scene. Beihou Liang himself was also very satisfied with the flying dagger technique that he had mastered. Although it could be said that when he was practicing the flying dagger technique, he had consumed a lot of physical strength and energy, and suffered a lot of hardship. However, in the end, the result was very worth it. First of all, the flying dagger technique could be considered a good gimmick. At the very least, the people in the city all knew that Beihou Liang had mastered a flying dagger technique. Moreover, it was incomparably mysterious. If a famous person had a gimmick, it would become a topic of conversation for even more people. It could even better increase one's fame. Beihou Liang used such a method. Moreover, this flying dagger technique was called swallow return technique. After piercing Li Zongjiu's throat, the flying dagger technique still had enough strength to make the flying dagger technique fly back to his hand. This was an extremely fancy flying dagger technique, and it was also an extremely brilliant flying dagger technique. Since it was rare for him to make a move, And it was also the day when the various great academies were recruiting students. He had to publicize his reputation. As for killing people, this kind of thing only needed to be covered up a little, and it would turn into a competition. Although this person was indeed dead, this statement could be changed. Even if Li Zhongjie could come back to life and accuse Bei Holiang in front of them, it would be useless. They all had a way to settle this matter. Whoosh! The throwing knife flew towards Li Zhongjie, but Li Zhongjie didn't seem to be able to react. He continued to use his chopsticks to pick up peanuts and put them into his mouth. The throwing knife flew past Li Zhongjie's cheek. He missed. Such a stunning strike had actually missed its target. He watched helplessly as the flying dagger brushed past Li Zhongjie. Then, the flying knife changed its direction and flew in a stunning arc. After circling around Li Zhongjie, it turned the tip of the saber around and returned to where it came from, shooting towards Bei Holiang. Bei Holiang knew that this was the effect of his swallow return saber. However, he saw that the flying knife's trajectory was different from what he had imagined. He was immediately startled. He stretched out his hand and circulated his origin energy, wanting to catch the flying knife. However, he saw that the knife directly escaped from his hand and flew behind him. Whoosh! Thud! Ah! The old servant next to the crane's son had a flying knife stuck in his shoulder. Fresh blood continuously flowed out. This made the old servant cry out in pain. This scene instantly made everyone's expression change. How could Bei Holiang's flying knife hurt his own people after flying back? Could this be Bei Holiang's legendary flying knife technique? If that was the case, it would be too laughable. It seemed like a stunning technique, but in reality, it wasn't very useful. It couldn't even hit the enemy, and would only hit his own people. This was really too embarrassing. However, no one dared to laugh out loud. When Bei Holiang saw this scene, he immediately glared at Li Zhongjie in front of him. It must be this brat's doing in the dark. Although the flying knife didn't touch Li Zhongjie, it had already changed its original trajectory. It must have been affected by Li Zhongjie. Kill him for me. Bei Holiang instantly slapped the table. The experts he brought with him all leaped out. Each of them displayed their own moves, wanting to take down Li Zhongjie. Li Zhongjie didn't give them a chance. Since he had already stepped on their heads, how could he let them go so easily? He directly picked up the stool beside the table, and the two people in front of him were directly knocked down by Li Zhongjie's stool. Bang! Bang! After the two stools smashed the second person, the stool also shattered with a sound. Three of them attacked Li Zhongjie from the front. Their fists were accompanied by gusts of wind, as they aimed directly at Li Zhongjie's face. Li Zhongjie's figure flashed as his chopsticks pierced out at lightning speed. These two chopsticks directly pierced through the wrists of the three people. At this moment, fresh blood flowed out, and wails could be heard everywhere. What are you all waiting for? Use your elemental energy. Bei Holiang was simply angered to death by these stupid people. A group of experts at the level of a general. When they fought with others, they actually all used their fists and hands. Although the use of elemental energy was extremely likely to attract the attention of the security guards, he had already informed the security guards beforehand. However, before he came, he had already spoken to the security chief of this area. As long as it ended quickly, and the matter was covered up well, it wouldn't be a problem. After all, the money he had spent for so long was not for nothing. It was because of this kind of relationship and preparation that Bei Holiang dared to bring people to block the door. As for those who attacked, they were all suffering unspeakably. It wasn't that they didn't want to use their elemental energy. It was that all their elemental energy seemed to be forcibly suppressed in their bodies, and they had no chance to use it at all. The more they tried to use it, the slower their movements became. It was as if there was a mountain pressing down on their elemental energy, causing them to be unable to use their elemental energy at all. They could only use their fists to fight with Li Zhongjie. Li Zhongjie also very courteously smashed the 10 people who rushed up to him to the ground. He had already changed the bench in his hand 4 times in a row. In the blink of an eye, the 20 people he brought along were all knocked down. They laid on the ground and wailed endlessly. Li Zhongjie also twisted his neck. He also took a lot of punches. However, the reason why Li Zhongjie let these people hit him was because he wanted to train his ancient golden tyrannical body art. He wanted to strengthen his physical body. But most importantly, when these people's fists landed on his body, he didn't feel anything at all. It was as if they were scratching an itch. To Li Zhongjie, these people's strength was really too weak. It wasn't even worth mentioning. As for the matter of elemental energy, it was naturally Li Zhongjie's masterpiece. He only needed to exert a little pressure on their mental strength and use it properly. Once these people used their elemental energy, it would be as if their bodies were burning. That kind of scorching pain also made these people not dare to use their elemental energy at all. Fortunately, they saw that Li Zhongjie didn't use his elemental energy and thought that they could take advantage of it. However, they didn't expect that with so many people rushing up at the same time, they would still end up like this in the end. What? All of them? Even the shopkeeper and the rest, who were hiding behind the counter, looked at the scene in front of them in shock. Although these people were said to be hooligans, as disciples of aristocratic families, they had to have real skills in order to be valued by their families. It was even a basic lesson that they had to attend. Simply put, even if they were a bunch of rich playboys, they were still stronger than ordinary people. There were also some guards that Beihou Liang personally selected from his family. Although it wasn't honorable to do so, it was most important to be able to take care of the other party. However, these guards didn't seem to be of much use. Therefore, they were all placed on the ground. "Ahu, go and cripple him," Beihou Liang said. At this moment, there were only a total of 3 people beside Beihou Liang. They were Zhang Hexuan and his old servant. The one called Ahu was Beihou Liang's last personal guard. He was also one of the most outstanding guards in the Beihou family. Although Ahu looked thin and weak, he actually had the divine strength of a god. Although he couldn't cultivate elemental energy, his fighting strength was enough to make an expert at the peak of the Yuan general realm afraid. When his fist attacked, even a Yuan ancestor realm expert would be seriously injured if they weren't careful. He possessed such terrifying strength. Therefore, Ahu followed beside Beihou Liang. "Roar!" Ahu roared angrily, and then jumped out. In order to prevent Ahu from accidentally killing someone, a black iron bracelet was specially placed on Ahu's wrist to suppress Ahu's strength. However, once Ahu got excited from the fight, this black iron bracelet would also be directly shattered. "Don't worry, with Ahu here, this kid is dead for sure." Chapter 271. Beihou Liang solemnly said to the 2 people beside him. Zhang Hexuan and the other man only nodded. They looked at the people lying on the ground, and some of them were even wriggling their bodies on the ground. More than 20 people couldn't take down Li Zhongjie alone. But this thin and weak kid in front of them. Could he succeed? When Ahu walked out and stood in front of Li Zhongjie could clearly feel the aura released from his body. Looking at the iron bracelet on Ahu's wrist, he understood that this person wasn't simple. "Roar!" Ahu stomped his foot, and the ground shook. The entire happy arrival and shook violently. Ahu's figure directly dashed out, and his big fist directly smashed towards Li Zhongjie's head. Boom! Li Zhongjie's fist collided with Ahu's. In an instant, he felt as if he was running madly, and in the end, he crashed into a mountain wall. This kind of pain and intense tearing feeling, it made Li Zhongjie suck in a breath of cold air. However, all the power was quickly absorbed by Li Zhongjie's body. It was an easy state. However, Li Zhongjie didn't relax for long. Ahu's iron fist once again smashed towards him. This punch could be said to be really fierce, and it even felt as if there was a fierce hurricane hanging in front of him. Boom! Li Zhongjie bent his arm in front of him to block. However, this punch smashed into the middle of his arm, and immediately, an extremely clear shattering sound rang out. Crack! His arm was directly broken. At the same time, Li Zhongjie's figure flew backwards. His figure landed on the ground. The opponent's punch was really fierce, and Li Zhongjie felt a sharp pain in his arm. In this pain, there was actually a trace of pleasure. At the same time, the pain gradually receded, because Li Zhongjie's injury was also slowly recovering. His broken bones were automatically reconnected at this moment. Li Zhongjie's punch was effective, and it also gave Beihou Liang hope. It seemed that Li Zhongjie was not an invincible existence, and this punch taught him how to behave. Ahu also felt disdain in his heart. Judging from the moment of the fight, although Li Zongjio's reaction wasn't bad, his strength was still worlds apart from his. It could be said that Li Zongjio wasn't his opponent at all. In fact, his punch just now would have been enough to break Li Zongjio's arm. What? How is that possible? Ahu saw that Li Zongjio was twisting his arm, as if he was adjusting his condition. He was immediately surprised. Li Zongjio had taken a punch from him. Logically speaking, his arm should have been broken. Even if he had taken medicine, it would take some time for him to recover. Li Zongjio waved his arm as if nothing had happened, and recovered just like that. What is your body made of? Is that all you have? Li Zongjio looked at Ahu in front of him, and said indifferently. Those who didn't know would think that Li Zongjio had been beaten silly. Just now, he clearly heard that his arm was broken. Although he didn't know what method he used to reconnect his arm, he still dared to say that. His opponent didn't have enough strength. How many skills do you have? Why don't you show them all? I can break your arm with one punch. If I punch you again, I can break your neck. In the face of Li Zongjio's contempt and provocation that courted death, Ahu also grinned. It was rare to meet someone who wasn't afraid of death. Of course, he had to teach him a lesson. Then you can enjoy my strength. Ahu roared in a low voice. His figure suddenly rushed forward. A table in the middle of the road was directly smashed by Ahu. Ahu then rushed out and jumped up. He didn't jump too high. Otherwise, it would be dangerous if his figure was too far from the ground. After all, Ahu didn't understand elemental energy. Once he was subdued in midair, he would be at a disadvantage. Obviously, he had experience of being at a disadvantage before. If Li Zongjio wanted to kill the person in front of him, it would be a piece of cake. However, Li Zongjio's goal wasn't to kill. His goal was to let his body suffer enough damage. When Li Zongjio felt that his broken arm had recovered, the effect seemed to be better than taking some poison to stimulate the body. It seems that there aren't many shortcuts to learn the ancient golden tyrannical body arts. He could only take the beating. Ahu was angered by Li Zongjio, so he didn't have the slightest scruple when he punched. With the permission of his young master, he was even more unscrupulous. When Li Zongjio fought with Ahu, he was often at a disadvantage in terms of strength. However, Li Zongjio had a feeling that he wasn't afraid of death. It was as if he was saying, I'm here to die. Just hit me with all your strength and show me all your moves. After 2 rounds of fighting, Ahu was already a little tired. Li Zongjio's body was really too resilient. It was obviously as fragile as a withered branch that would break with a snap. However, his recovery ability was incomparably abnormal. In just 2 breaths of time, he could completely recover from the injuries on his body. In fact, after he recovered, his strength would increase every time he did so. This was the most frightening part of the situation. Ahu originally wanted to take advantage of the time when Li Zongjio was injured to beat Li Zongjio until he couldn't recover. However, Li Zongjio's reaction and speed would increase at this time, so Ahu couldn't even touch Li Zongjio's clothes. Ahu could only watch helplessly as Li Zongjio's body recovered, after which a new round of attacks was carried out. This endless cycle had already continued for nearly an hour. Ahu had even used the moves that he could use repeatedly. However, Li Zongjio still didn't fall. Ahu, what are you waiting for? Kill him! Bei Holiang roared. He had been watching the fight for a long time. In the beginning, he would applaud enthusiastically. However, when he saw that Li Zongjio still didn't fall, and was even fighting more fiercely, he couldn't help but worry. What was this guy doing? Could it be that he was acting? Hearing his young master's anger, Ahu shook his head. Then, he clenched his teeth, and took off the black iron bracelet on his wrist. Clang! Clang! The black iron bracelet fell heavily to the ground. It was as if the floor of the inn had been smashed through. Seeing this, the innkeeper didn't feel agitated at all. By now, the inn was almost completely destroyed by the 2 of them. At this time, the quality of these things could be seen. Anyway, the worst quality was the table. Clang! Clang! Ahu flexed the joints of his fingers. At this moment, he was like a fierce tiger that had been released from its cage. At this moment, Ahu's body also released a barbaric and terrifying aura. It seemed that the current him was truly in his best state. Your time of death has come, Ahu said coldly. The current him was twice as fast as before. You have said this more than 10 times. Li Zongjio shook his head. Every time this guy used a new move, he would say this, which made Li Zongjio feel a little annoyed. Most importantly, Li Zongjio also felt that his body's toughness had increased, and Ahu's fists were no longer as effective as before. Therefore, he didn't want to waste time on this. After removing the iron bracelet, Ahu's speed was indeed faster. When he rushed over, Li Zongjio didn't hesitate and directly raised his fist, smashing it on Ahu's face with a speed faster than his opponent's. 2 of Ahu's front teeth were instantly broken, and with blood at the corner of his mouth, his body fell to the ground with a bang. Li Zongjio kicked again, and directly kicked Ahu's nose crooked. These 2 consecutive blows directly disintegrated Ahu's attack power. Lying on the ground, he couldn't get up at all. Seeing this scene, Beihou Yang and the others couldn't sit still anymore. They directly stood up and looked at Li Zongjio in shock. Could it be that Li Zongjio had been putting on an act all this time? With just one move, he had taken down Ahu. It seemed that his injuries weren't simple. You! Beihou Yang pointed at Li Zongjio, and Li Zongjio's figure instantly appeared in front of Beihou Yang. Although he came quickly, Beihou Yang was also a Sky Origin ancestor. He immediately put up a defensive shield. Boom! When Beihou Yang's defensive shield touched Li Zongjio, it immediately burned, and a hole was directly broken. It was burned out by the flames. What? Li Zongjio stretched out his hand and grabbed Beihou Yang over. With a shoulder throw, Beihou Yang smashed onto the floor. Puff! Chapter 272. Beihou Yang instantly felt the air in his chest being shaken out of his mouth. This time it was really uncomfortable. Seeing Li Zongjio's fists coming down, Beihou Yang instantly closed his eyes. No! Bang! A loud sound exploded beside his ear. Beihou Yang felt as if a sharp knife had pierced into his ear. His ear was pierced, and blood flowed out from it. The fist did not hit Beihou Yang's head, but landed on the floor beside him. A big hole appeared on the floor. Even with that being the case, Beihou Yang was still deeply frightened. As the young master of the Bei family, he had a noble status and good talent. In the Heavenly Dawn medicine manner, his strength was also quite good. He had roped in many experts to stand on his side. When had he ever encountered such a situation? After being threatened with death, he almost peed in his pants. Sir, you can't kill him. The innkeeper was also frightened when he saw Li Zongjio's action. If Beihou Yang died here, his pleasant arrival in would be finished. No matter how he explained that it had nothing to do with him, the Bei family would not let him go. Not only him, but even his family would probably suffer as well. Li Zongjio naturally knew the seriousness of the matter. Although he wasn't afraid, he had offended quite a number of people at the moment. Moreover, he had to deal with Qing Yuan Villa, so he couldn't afford to make too many enemies. Moreover, the Northern Mystic City wasn't a small city anymore. In Northern Medicine City, if one killed the city lord, as long as one didn't have a powerful background, and as long as one could escape, one would only be wanted symbolically. If one didn't have any evidence, one wouldn't even be able to be wanted. Most of the people who came to investigate would be perfunctory. Who would risk their lives for such a thing? They were just a bunch of people who came to get benefits. However, in a second-class city, everything would be different. Even if there was a murder case in the slums, it would be investigated to the end. Therefore, although these hedonistic sons came to fight, they did not bring any weapons. Because this thing couldn't be casually revealed. If they used their fists, it would at most be considered a brawl. Everyone would be fined some money and mediate the relationship. However, if they were to use weapons, then the nature of the situation would be different. Only Beihou Yang had dared to use a throwing knife at the beginning. Strictly speaking, throwing knives were not considered weapons. They were just like kitchen knives. Their lethality was limited. How much do you think your life is worth? Li Zongjio said calmly. Beihou Yang was also scared out of his wits. When he heard Li Zongjio's question, he understood that Li Zongjio wanted to extort him. Too many shameful things had happened today. At this moment, Beihou Yang did not want to stay here any longer. This is all the money I have. It's my loss this time. Beihou Liang was very straightforward. He immediately took out a stack of purple banknotes from his storage ring. These were all purple yuan notes. There was a note with a face value of 200,000 purple yuan. There were at least 100 notes in this stack. 20 million purple yuan. This. Even the boss of the Pleasant Arrival Inn was stunned when he saw these banknotes. These hedonistic sons casually took out a stack of banknotes. It was enough for them to work hard for half their lives. No wonder there were so many people who came to hate these rich people every day. 20 million purple yuan was equivalent to 2 billion gold yuan. Even Li Zongjio did not expect this guy to be so rich. Did these people's money just fall from the sky? But at their level, they already rarely use gold coins. They all use purple coins. This was because some things were too valuable. Gold yuan was not enough to measure them, just like how Li Zongjio rarely used silver yuan. And yours? Li Zongjio pointed at the crane's son. Brat, don't be too arrogant. The old servant beside Crane's son continued to clamor. He was very protective of Crane's son. However, the flying dagger still stuck in Crane's son's shoulder made people unable to move their eyes away. If the flying dagger was pulled out, blood would splatter in an instant, and it would be sent flying. Crane's son's face was pale. Therefore, they had to go to the medical hall to pull out the throwing knife. Li Zongjio did not pay attention to the clamoring old servant. Instead, he looked at the crane's son with a cold gaze. Zhang Sun was silent for a while. In the end, he was defeated by Li Zongjio's gaze. Li Zongjio's gaze was cold and emotionless. It was as if he would crush his head at any time. At the same time, he knew that if he did not pay today, he would not be able to leave. Therefore, he had to pay to have a chance to leave. I don't have much money. I only have 700,000 purple yuan. Zhang Sun said. 700,000 purple yuan was equivalent to 70 million gold yuan. He could get so much money by casually extorting two rich kids. In the past, Li Zongjio had no concept of money. After all, Li Zongjio did not need money in the past. When he needed something, he would just snatch it or give a slight greeting. Then he would have everything. He did not need to spend money anywhere. However, in this life, for the sake of his family, he had to keep his wealth. Just a mere disciple of a clan had so much money in his hands. He wondered how wealthy these people's clans were. Young master, this. The old servant listened to his young master's words and became nervous. Did he really have to give the money to this bastard in front of him? If he wanted to leave, this brat might not be able to stop them. Could it be that they wanted to chase him all over the street? Give it to him, Zhang Sun shouted. In the end, the old servant reluctantly put the 700,000 purple yuan on the table. Humph! Zhang Sun immediately stood up, turned around and left. Among all the people present, only Zhang Sun did not get beaten up. However, Zhang Sun knew that the person in front of him was obviously mocking him. If he continued to mock him, he would not even have the qualifications to make him attack. Because of this, Zhang Sun felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Hey brat! When Zhang Sun was about to step out of the inn, he was stopped by Li Zongjio. Next time you see me, stay away. Otherwise, I'll throw you into a cesspool, Li Zongjio said indifferently. Zhang Sun clenched his fists and left the inn angrily. Beihou Liang also stood up and looked at Li Zongjio with a complicated gaze. However, there was more hatred in his eyes. What's your name? I, Beihou Liang, will remember this, Beihou Liang said. You don't deserve to know my name. Get lost. Li Zongjio waved his hand and drove Beihou Liang away, as if he was driving away an annoying fly. Beihou Liang also left the Pleasant Inn in anger. No one would have thought that he, the dignified young master of the Bei family, would suffer such a great humiliation here. At this moment, there were still some people squeezed in a corner of the inn. Li Zongjio looked at the stack of bank notes on the table, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a satisfied smile. Pay up one by one, and you can leave. Pay up one by one. Looking at the stack of 700,000 purple yuan notes on the table, Li Zongjio's intention was very clear. The amount of money each person had to pay must not be less than this stack of notes. Among them, some had good family backgrounds, but some were not so favored. They could not take out so much money in such a short time, so they borrowed from each other. In the end, the 20 or so people pooled together nearly 10 million purple yuan notes. It seemed that the kid was rich. He alone took out 20 million purple yuan, while these people pooled their money together and only managed to scrape together such a small amount. Li Zongjie was also very dissatisfied. You poor bastards, pretending to be rich when you have no money. Get lost. Before they left, they were all sent out by Li Zongjie with a kick. After falling on the street, they did not dare to say anything and went their separate ways, earning more than 30 million purple yuan in one night. This made the owner of the Pleasant Inn very envious. Innkeeper, are my dishes ready? Li Zongjie said. Then he looked at the roof on the opposite side. After a glance, he withdrew his gaze and found a clean table. The wine and dishes were served, not daring to delay for a moment. Chapter 273. In a tall building opposite the Uli Inn, two figures crossed their arms in front of their chests. They wore wide hats on their heads. They had been observing the happenings in the Uli in the entire night with their heads lowered. They were the special guards of the city, also known as the special envoys. Their duty was to monitor some special situations, such as when some underground gangs were negotiating. For such situations, they also needed to monitor. If there was a conflict between these people, they would have to take action to prevent the conflict from escalating. After these people committed crimes, they would all be captured. Generally speaking, as long as there was no death, they would not take action. Since the Shengyan dynasty had pacified the world, the country naturally had to be prosperous, and the people were at peace. They temporarily had no way to take care of third-class cities and some small counties. However, second-class cities like these had to be strictly governed. These special envoys usually belonged to a certain city. For example, they were the special envoys of the Xianbei giant city. Sometimes some fugitives would also be chased across cities. No matter where you run to, I'll catch you and bring you back. This kid's strength is not bad. He handled this matter well. Not only did he get benefits, he also took care of those hedonistic sons. The two of them had been monitoring the situation tonight. If Li Zongjie killed someone, they would definitely not let Li Zongjie go. And if Beihou Liang wanted to kill someone, they would also come out to stop him. Recently, it just so happened that the big schools and sects were recruiting students. There were originally a lot of things happening, and there were even more accidents. Some people who came from outside did not know the severity of the matter, and often, there would be people who broke the law. At this time, the special envoys would not let them go easily. Although he did not kill anyone tonight, he is still a dangerous person. Take note of this, one of them said. Then he took out a book from his bosom and quickly drew Li Zongjie's portrait on it. He also left a line of records. I heard that he is riding a red-maned horse from Thousand Horse City. Oh, are they from Thousand Horse City? Then we have to be even more careful. After the two of them chatted for a while, they saw that Li Zongjie had let everyone go, so they immediately left. If there were any movements in other places, they had to quickly rush over and monitor. That night's work was quite busy. For the entire night, only the Xianbei special envoys were flying in the sky. Sometimes when they were tired, they would walk on the ground for a while. Usually, no one knew how many special envoys were walking on this street. The number of envoys in the entire Black North giant city was enough to cover every street. From this, one could see how terrifying this number was. Even if he wanted to do something bad, it wouldn't be that easy. The strength of a special envoy was at least at the Sky Origin Ancestor realm. This was the power of the Shengyan dynasty. In comparison, any third-class city could be said to be lacking in climate. In the following 2 days, Li Zongjie did not encounter any trouble. He bought a batch of herbs and spent a day in an alchemy building to refine many elixirs. An alchemy building in a city like this was a real alchemy building. It had all kinds of facilities, and it also sold some herbs. Moreover, even if it was the highest grade alchemy room, it didn't require anything else. It only required money. This was because the best alchemy building had an advantage when it came to refining elixirs. Even if one was not refining a grade 4 elixir, or even a grade 5 elixir, one could still refine it there. The success rate would also be higher. However, the return on value would depend on one's own calculation. One could not possibly rent a grade 4 alchemy building just to refine a grade 1 elixir. Even if one refined 100 grade 1 elixirs in 2 hours, one would not be able to earn back the money spent. Li Zhongjie only used a day's time. He had refined close to 23 flower energy gathering elixirs for Sky Origin Ancestor Realm experts. If I consume one every 3 days, this amount will be enough for me to consume for 2 months. The Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir was very popular among Sky Origin Ancestor Realm experts. If one were to sell it casually, the price would be around 1 million purple yuan. This was equivalent to 100 million gold yuan. If 20 Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixirs were to be sold, a conservative estimate would be 3 billion. This was how terrifying it was. The cost of the herbs would not exceed 5 million gold yuan. Therefore, alchemy was a relatively profitable skill. As long as one could survive and successfully refine elixirs, there would be a lot of people who would invite one to refine elixirs. Of course, this success rate was also necessary. Li Zhongjie's success rate was basically 200% after he activated the White Dragon Origin Spirit. He had never failed in refining the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir. If it had been for the lack of materials, Li Zhongjie would have been able to continue refining. There is still one more day. Let's cultivate. Only 2 out of 3 days had passed. On the last day, Li Zhongjie stayed in the room and consumed the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir to increase his yuan power cultivation. As a grade 4 elixir, the effect of this elixir was still very strong. However, Li Zhongjie's body was like a bottomless pit. It had only been 4 hours, yet he had already refined 2 Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixirs. Furthermore, the absorption effect of the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir within his body was much greater than that of ordinary people. How can this be? Is this body a bottomless pit? However, Li Zhongjie quickly understood. Others only had 1 primordial spirit, or none at all. However, Li Zhongjie had a total of 4. Just the 4 of them alone meant that no one could compare to Li Zhongjie. With so many origin spirits, it naturally required a large amount of yuan power to be consumed. Only by absorbing yuan power could one grow. Even if a Sky Origin Sect elite were to refine the Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixir, the medicinal effect would last for at least 7 days before it could be completely refined. Li Zhongjie had already doubled his standard, refining 1 elixir every 3 days. However, when it came to putting it into practice, it was still far from enough. In one night, Li Zhongjie consumed a total of 7 Triflower Vitality Gathering Elixirs. Even until the next day, when the sun had risen, Li Zhongjie was still in high spirits. He sensed his yuan power cultivation realm. Li Zhongjie was also quite satisfied. Grade 7 Origin General Realm. Not bad. In one night, Li Zhongjie had jumped from a Grade 1 Origin General to a Grade 7 Origin General. With such an effect, Li Zhongjie could only achieve a grade of not bad. If anyone heard this, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Only Li Zhongjie's body could reach such a level. Today is the day of the assessment. Let's see what these people are going to test. They really know how to have fun. Li Zhongjie could not help but shake his head. West City Herb Forest. Occupying the southwest corner of Black North Megacity, it covered an area of nearly 10,000 acres and stretched as far as the eye could see. In this herb forest, there were also some extremely precious herbs. This herb forest belonged to the Alchemist Alliance in the city. Since Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wanted to conduct the assessment, it was an honor for the Alchemist Alliance to use the Alchemist Alliance's site. Naturally, they did not dare to decline. The Alliance Master of Black North Alchemist Alliance had also come personally to receive them. These were all instructors of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Not to mention their alchemy cultivation, just the number of disciples that they had taught over the years was already uncountable. These people possessed great power and could not be easily offended. Moreover, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was the top academy in the Xingyan dynasty. The power and resources that it controlled were not something that the Alchemist Alliance of a mere second-class city could imagine. Therefore, the Alliance Master had also come personally. As the Alliance Master of the Alchemist Alliance, Han Qinglu naturally had a respected status in Black North Megacity. Today, Han Qinglu was wearing the alchemist robe issued by the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. 4 golden leaves were embroidered on the opening of the long robe, indicating Han Qinglu's status and rank. He was actually a grade 4 alchemist. No one knew what level 4 he was at, but with this level of strength, he was able to draw a long line in front of everyone. It was unknown how many 3rd-grade alchemists had spent their entire lives, but there was no way for them to reach this level. There weren't many grade 3 alchemists in the Black North Giant City. Han Qinglu had already brought some people to wait. There were many students waiting around. These people were all students who were waiting for the assessment. Among these people, there were many who had great potential. If they were properly developed, they would definitely become outstanding talents of their generation. Even Han Qinglu and the others were not clear about the content of the assessment. They saw a few instructors of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor walking out from the front. Han Qinglu and the others immediately went up to them with smiles on their faces. Director Shang, you're early. Chapter 274. Shang Diqing. He was the recruitment director of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's Earth Branch. He was in charge of the recruitment of students in the Black North Giant City. In the entire empire, there were already more than 100 recruitment points in the 2nd-grade cities. In some places, some instructors would bring some students to recruit students. However, in the Black North Mega City, there was a director-level instructor in charge. Obviously, the importance of this place was completely different. Alliance Master Han, you're up early too. You seem to be in good spirits. Shang Diqing cupped his hands and said. Although Shang Diqing was the director-level instructor, he was only in his 40s. Moreover, the golden leaf on his chest showed his status. Similarly, he was also a grade 4 alchemist. 2 grade 4 alchemists had appeared in the Black Northern Megacity at the same time. Such a lineup was extremely eye-catching. Not early at all. It's our honor to be able to provide resources for your manor. Alliance Master Han, you're too courteous. If you're free after the assessment, you can come to our Heavenly Star Medicine Manor for a visit. Shang Diqing was also very good at controlling his words. He directly invited Han Qinglu to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor as a guest. What was the point of being a guest? Of course, he wanted to discuss the experience of refining pills. To put it bluntly, he was giving Han Qinglu a chance to enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to listen to a lecture. Han Qinglu's face lit up with joy when he heard this. His heart was also bursting with joy. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Back then, he was not talented enough, so he had no choice but to miss the opportunity to enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Now that he had the opportunity to enter and learn, it was naturally a good thing. Thank you, Director Shang. Thank you, Director Shang. Even though Han Qinglu was much older than Shang Diqing, he still appeared quite respectful and reserved in front of Shang Diqing. The people behind him did not even have the qualifications to talk to Shang Diqing. Is everyone here? If so, we'll start, Shang Diqing said. Behind Shang Diqing, there were also a few instructors and disciples of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Shockingly, Beiho Liang was amongst them. Beiho Liang was obviously a little haggard these 2 days. After being threatened by Li Zhongjiu, he still couldn't swallow his anger. He couldn't wait to kill Li Zhongjiu. However, it was hard to imagine how strict the supervision in the city was. There are already so many people. When Li Zhongjiu arrived, he saw that there were already a lot of people gathered in front of the western city's medicinal forest. People were constantly moving about. He was almost too late. Li Zhongjiu had just exited his cultivation state. Today's training had exceeded Li Zhongjiu's expectations. However, after the Yuan power had been strengthened, it had also greatly improved his physical condition. Yes, it's that brat again. That brat is actually here to register for the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. When Beiho Liang saw Li Zhongjiu, he was instantly shocked. His eyelids twitched and his emotions fluctuated. He never expected that Li Zhongjiu would actually fall into his hands. Instantly, a sinister light flashed across Beiho Liang's eyes. There were so many examinees present. Although Beihou Liang did not have the authority to make the decision, if he interfered and caused Li Zongjiu to fail the assessment, it would be enough for him to take revenge on Li Zongjiu. When he thought of this, Beihou Liang sneered in his heart. The sun also saw Li Zongjiu. A glint flashed across his eyes. Why didn't he see Li Zongjiu before? Was he here to participate in the assessment as well? However, Zhang Sun subconsciously moved to the side to prevent Li Zongjiu from seeing him. Zhang Sun was an alchemy genius. He was not good at fighting. However, Li Zongjiu was very good at fighting. Otherwise, Beihou Liang and the others would not have been beaten up so badly. Therefore, it was not beneficial for Zhang Hexuan to meet Li Zongjiu here. When the assessment began, he would show Li Zongjiu how powerful he was. This time, the Black North Giant City only had 5 spots. However, there were less than 500 people left after the first round of screening. Many people did not pass the first round of the assessment. Some of the tasks were simple, but to some people, it was harder than ascending to the heavens. Not everyone had such talent, especially when there were tens of thousands of medicinal ingredients. When the method was ever-changing, it was truly a headache. Even if some martial arts geniuses could be said to have some achievements in martial arts, when it came to alchemy, there was a high chance that they would be completely clueless. This was the terrifying gap in uniqueness between the two. The entire Black North Giant City only recruited 5 people. In the entire Dingquan province, there were probably more than 300 people who signed up. In the 13 provinces of the Xingyan dynasty, the number of people would reach 3,000 to 4,000. However, there was still a test when one went to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. In the end, only 5 people could enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Not even 1 out of 10 would survive. This cruel selection and elimination rate also proved the status of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Those who could enter were the cream of the crop, the true pillars of the country. You are all here to participate in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's recruitment test. Now is the second round. You have all passed the first round, so I have to congratulate you first. However, don't be in a hurry to celebrate. The second round begins today. I'll give you 7 days. In these 7 days, each of you must cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower. Moreover, the seeds you use must be provided by us. The doors of the Western City's medicinal forest were already closed. Some of the examinees who had yet to arrive were directly turned away. If they couldn't even make it in time for the test, what was the point of coming? They should just pack up and go home. Hearing the content of the test, the corners of Zhang Hexuan's mouth couldn't help but curl up. Although Beihou Liang couldn't help him take revenge, he could provide some help in the process of the test. For example, he could leak some information in advance. Although he didn't know the specific content, Beihou Liang had asked Zhang Hexuan to prepare some spirit soil and spirit spring in advance. These were all used when cultivating medicinal ingredients. As for the 5-colored soft intestine flower, if one wanted to cultivate it, they had to absorb a large amount of spirit energy. During the process, they had to be carefully taken care of. Otherwise, if they were careless and absorbed too much spirit energy, they would explode. This was how the name of the 5-colored soft intestine flower came about. Of course, after it was cultivated, if it was said that it only had 1 color, it would be considered a beginner grade. Some of the more skillful ones could open 2 or even 3 colors. As for 4 colors, it would require time. If it was 5 colors, it could basically be sold as a 4th grade spirit herb. Everyone only had 1 seed. If this seed was spoiled, it would be equivalent to a failure. Cultivating spirit herbs and spirit herbs had nothing to do with refining pills. However, as an alchemist, or if you wanted to become an alchemist, you must first have a basic understanding of spirit herbs. Among the 500 people who stayed, at least they knew what the 5-colored soft intestine flower was. If you can successfully bloom within 7 days, you will pass. There will be supervisors to supervise you. You cannot cheat. The place you can find is in the Western City's medicinal forest. Remember, you cannot destroy any of the medicinal ingredients. Shang Diqing said, "You cannot destroy the medicinal ingredients." The range was within the Western City's medicinal forest. Then, Seizing the place where spirit energy gathered became the most important thing. In addition, with the catalysis of one's own spirit energy, there was a possibility of success. Therefore, time was of the essence. They had 7 days, so they had to catalyze day and night without stopping. A cold light flashed in Beiholiang's eyes. This time, you've really fallen into my hands. He sneered in his heart. Then he spread open a few tables. There were a few crystal jars, and inside the jars were small black beans. These were the 5-colored soft intestine flower seeds. In addition, there were some small shovels and other tools at the side. It was quite considerate. All the examinees lined up in front of the tables to receive the seeds and tools. This is yours. A female disciple of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor already had beads of sweat on her forehead. After registering Li Zongjiu's number plate and information, she handed the seeds and tools to him. Good luck in the exam. The female disciple smiled at Li Zongjiu. Although work was tiring, the female disciple's smile did indeed make one feel happy. There was a huge hourglass in the open space. The second round of the Black North Giant City exam begins now. She turned the hourglass upside down. These 500 examinees rushed into the western city's medicinal forest. This medicine forest was more like a primeval forest that they had created. Many of the spirit herbs grew naturally. However, the chances of them being destroyed were lower. Therefore, 100 flowers could bloom. In a mountain forest of more than 10,000 mu, there was naturally a difference in the concentration of spirit energy. Some of them quickly took out some tools and began to explore the ground, looking for the place with the highest concentration of spirit energy. Chapter 275. Even if Li Zongjiu used his nose to sniff, he would know where the spirit energy was dense enough to bring these seeds to life. However, Li Zongjiu was not in a hurry. After all, he had just sat on the bed for an entire day. It was not a bad idea to take a walk now. He wanted to stretch his muscles and bones. Immediately, Li Zongjiu placed his hands behind his back and walked forward in the medicinal forest. It had been a long time since he had taken a stroll in an elixir field. In this kind of place, even a single breath was enough to make one feel refreshed. This was the magical effect of the elixir field. This was a rare treasure land that could prolong one's life. This person is quite interesting. He's actually walking slowly. The others are already wishing they had 4 legs. After distributing the seeds, the 5 disciples of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor breathed a sigh of relief. Among the 5 disciples, there were 3 men and 2 women. One of them was Beiholiang. Beiholiang had been staring at Li Zongjiu since the beginning. He wished he could snatch the seeds from Li Zongjiu's hands, put them on the ground, and step on them before returning them to him. You guys take a break later and go in for an inspection. There will definitely be people who will violate the rules. Yes, head, Beiholiang and the others said. The 2 women also walked to the side and observed this batch of disciples. If we're talking about handsome, that Zhang Hexuan is quite handsome. I heard that his potential is not bad. However, his style is not good. That one is not bad either. The younger woman with the ponytail recalled Li Zongjiu's cold and indifferent face. At the same time, he looked a little silly. She looked at Li Zongjiu's leisurely appearance. This was the first time he had seen such a magnanimous and open-minded person. This was the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's test. Could he be more serious? Even if he was not serious, he should at least look a little nervous. However, Li Zongjiu appeared to be calm and composed. It was as if he was already confident and had only come to the medicine forest for a stroll. Yes, they are all potential stocks. I just don't know how talented they are. After all, you and I are not on the same level as them. If they are not strong enough, they will not be able to enter our world. I heard that Zhang Hexuan is very talented. In this round, I still favor Zhang Hexuan. The ponytailed girl could not help but purse her lips. Although Zhang Genshu's talent was obvious to all, the young lady wasn't interested in the Sun Crane and didn't have a good impression of it. He felt that Zhang Hexuan was a sinister person, so he was unwilling to get close to him. On the other hand, Li Zongjiu was different. He gave off the feeling of a spring breeze. Moreover, one could always feel that Li Zongjiu was calm and pure. At least, That was the case when it came to alchemy. Director Shang, the weather is hot. I've prepared a bottle of 1,000-year-old wine in the room next door. Why don't we go to the bamboo courtyard and have a drink? Oh, 1,000-year-old wine? What wine? Upon hearing that it was a 1,000-year-old reward, Shang Diqing's eyes lit up, as if he wanted to eat someone. These people were old. Besides alchemy and cultivation, they only had these hobbies left. Therefore, they were very excited. Of course, it's the Jade Lake Heavenly Spring. Heavenly Spring Mountains wine? Okay. Let's go. You guys, I'll leave this place to you. If there's anything, come and find me. Shang Diqing immediately grabbed hold of Han Qinglu and walked quickly towards the bamboo courtyard. In the medicine forest, more than 500 people entered the medicine forest quickly. Some of them were familiar with each other and went in groups. After all, it was very likely that they would receive hostility and hatred from others. Therefore, they had to be prepared at this time. To prevent these people from acting recklessly, it would also make them feel more at ease. There were also some people who were good at fighting, as well as concocting pills. Thus, they were bold enough to go alone. In the beginning, everyone was looking for a more secluded place, so that they could cultivate the seeds in their hands in peace. Li Zhongjiu also walked a few hundred meters on foot, and found a good place in front of a waterfall. It was under the cliff of the waterfall. However, a battle had already broken out here. A tall and sturdy man with strong arms defeated 5 people by himself. He even kicked one of them directly into the water. 1 against 5. That was already a pretty good result. The surrounding 5 people also fled in panic. The man turned around and saw Li Zhongjiu. He first looked at Li Zhongjiu's body. Such a thin and weak body, how many punches could he take? Get lost. I'm in a good mood today. I'll give you a chance to live. The man waved his hand. He seemed to be very magnanimous. Li Zhongjiu acted as if he didn't hear him, and continued to live in front of him. The man suddenly showed a ferocious look. You don't understand what I'm saying, do you? Li Zhongjiu continued to walk. Damn it, I met a retard. Today, I'm going to beat all the wax out of your ears. The man rolled up his sleeves and took the initiative to walk toward Li Zhongjiu, just as he was about to punch Li Zhongjiu's head. However, he realized that Li Zhongjiu had already made his move and punched the man's face as well. Bang! The tall and mighty figure was directly sent flying. With a bang, he fell into the river 10 meters away. If he were to crash onto the floor, all the bones in his body would probably shatter. At this moment, the man fell directly into the river. Because he took a punch, his body couldn't struggle, and was directly sent away by the river. Whoosh! Like a piece of wood, he was directly washed away. Li Zhongjiu wasn't interested in where the waterfall would lead to. When Li Zhongjiu got rid of the big man, he didn't find a place to plant the seed. Instead, he glanced at the waterfall. You guys have been holding it in for so long. Don't you plan to come out? Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. After he said this, the scene became quiet. There was no sound around. Then, 3 figures suddenly rushed out of the waterfall that was constantly flowing down. Bang! 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 The 3 of them split up and landed beside Li Zhongjiu. They all had a dagger in their hands and stared at Li Zhongjiu in front of them. Their eyes were as sharp as knives. The 3 of us don't want to hurt anyone. You'd better leave. Let's make friends. You guys don't deserve to be my friends. Either leave, or be washed away like him. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. Your Excellency, don't overestimate your strength. The 3 of them had obviously been in the Jianghu for a while. Although they knew Li Zhongjiu wasn't someone to be trifled with, they didn't give up directly. After all, the spiritual energy here was rich. For them, there would be a greater chance to cultivate the 5-color soft intestine flower. Therefore, this was a treasure land that they had to fight for. No matter what, they couldn't lose it. If Li Zhongjiu insisted on not leaving, then they could only fight a bloody battle. Looking at the 3 of them, it seemed that they came from the same place. In fact, their strength wasn't weak. At least they could hold their breath in the water for so long without coming out. But in the end, they were discovered by Li Zhongjiu. Naturally, they had no choice but to come out. However, perseverance was just perseverance. Since this place had already become Li Zhongjiu's territory, the fate of these people could only go with the flow. 3 seconds later, the three of them fell into the river. They went down with the flow and disappeared without a trace. Fortunately, there weren't any meta beasts in the river. Otherwise, these meta beasts would have a full meal. This place is already occupied by this person. But how can we let you enjoy such a good place alone? Zhang Hushuan saw this scene from afar, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. Anyone with some experience would be able to find this place. This place could be said to be the place with the richest spiritual energy in the entire herb forest. If planted here, the effect of the growth would be very obvious. Li Zongjie was one step ahead, and at least 10 people had been beaten back. It seemed that the fight here was also very intense. Spread the word that this place is rich in spiritual energy and can help the 5-color soft intestine flower grow faster. Zhang Hushuan said indifferently. The people following Zhang Hushuan were people he met at the banquet a few days ago. To them, if they could have a master like Zhang Hushuan to guide them, their chances of passing the assessment would be greatly increased. Even if Zhang Hushuan ordered them to do something, it would be reasonable. This kid will probably become the target of public criticism. One of them sneered. Some people would also plant their own seeds in a hidden place, and then destroy other people's seeds. That could also be considered as a means of doing things. Such a method was quite despicable. People like Li Zongjie, if he were to occupy a treasure trove by himself, he would become the target of these people. Chapter 276. Since he was going to stay here for 7 days, he naturally had to prepare well. There was a lot of ritual in life. Li Zongjie used his mental strength to build a small house and a small courtyard by the riverside. In fact, there was a lot of knowledge in this kind of plant. If one could not grasp the mystery of it, it would be very difficult to succeed. Everything in the world had a counterbalance. Since he wanted the 5-colored soft intestine flower to grow, he naturally had to find something that could accelerate the growth of the flower. Before planting, it seems like I have to transplant some things here. Li Zongjie scratched his chin and recalled the books he had read in his previous life. In order to grow this thing in such a short period of time, it would naturally require the use of some folk recipes and methods. Before leaving, Li Zongjie also set up a mental strength array in front of his house. People who came close, they would be knocked down by the mental strength and directly faint. This was a very normal thing. However, Li Zongjie still had a trick up his sleeve and did not increase the power of the attack. Otherwise, if they came too close, they might be directly killed. After that, Li Zongjie went to the mountain forest and took the small shovel and small bucket in his hands to look for the herbs everywhere. Li Zongjie did not go far. Some people who received the news also came in groups and came to the waterfall. When they saw that under the waterfall, there was actually an earthen house in front of them. When they felt that the place was permeated by the spiritual spring, they immediately coveted this area. A place like this would definitely be able to let their 5-colored soft intestine flower grow. That kid's 5-colored soft intestine flower must be buried in that courtyard. As long as we dig it out and plant it, then he will definitely not recognize it. These people thought for a moment, and immediately came up with such a brilliant plan. This kind of sneaky move was also somewhat unexpected. However, this was just a thought. If the other party found out, wouldn't they be done for? Right now, in the western city's medicinal forest, the only thing that was more precious than their lives was probably the seed in their hands. Why don't we set his house on fire and burn it down first? That's right, let that brat know how powerful we are. Let's set the fire first. Therefore, a few people approached and wanted to use the flint in their hands to set the house on fire. However, when they got within 100 steps of the house, they felt a sense of dread. It was as if a pair of eyes were staring at them, making their hair stand on end. What do you feel? Do you feel like someone is staring at you? Although this place was still within the Black North Giant City, it was still extremely dangerous. However, the surrounding environment was gloomy, giving people the feeling that something was about to attack them. After all, they were people who lived in some big cities, and their families had prominent identities. They didn't need to run to such a desolate place all day. And any family, That is, if anyone discovers that you have some talent. It could be said that from this point on, at the very least, you wouldn't have to do any manual labor. That was how popular you were. The value and profit that an alchemist could bring to a family was beyond imagination. Have you gone crazy from playing with women? There's no one around. A person said to his companion in disdain. However, as soon as he took a step forward, he immediately felt as if someone had hit him on the head with a hammer. Bang! Just like that, he fell straight to the ground. What the fuck are you doing? Are you fucking pretending to be dead? Do you think you don't have to set the house on fire by lying on the ground? Get the fuck up. That person wanted to go up and wake up the person who was pretending to be asleep. However, when he walked to the side of that person, he also felt a heavy hammer on his head. His whole body fell on the other person's body. Only 2 people walked forward, while the other 3 watched from afar. When they saw the 2 people fall one after another, they couldn't help but glance at them, not knowing what the hell was going on. Aren't the 2 of them known to be ruthless? Why are they lying together now? That's not right. The 2 of them seemed to have fainted. The 3 of them looked at each other. Could it be that there was a sneak attack nearby? They looked around for a long time, but there was no trace of anyone. The 3 of them simply gritted their teeth. Let's bring them back first. We can't leave them there. These people wanted to drag the 2 unconscious people back. However, when they approached, they were once again knocked down by the spiritual array. If they really had some achievements in alchemy, they must have cultivated mental strength. Then, they might be able to sense the location of the spiritual array. Naturally, they wouldn't dare to casually approach it, because a casual force was enough to send people flying. It wasn't that simple. After having mental strength, one would know how terrifying the mental strength left by Li Zongjie was. Such a situation occurred. These people who had been knocked unconscious were basically the sons of some rich families in the city, disciples of big families, or disciples from other cities. They were all here to fish in troubled waters, but in reality, they didn't have any ability. They only came here to try their luck. If they were accidentally hit, it would be a good opportunity. However, it seemed that things weren't so good now, because they met Li Zongjie. When Li Zongjie came back with a few medicinal herbs in his hands, he saw a few figures lying in front of his small house. They looked like they had been electrocuted. Why are there so many people lying here? Li Zongjie glanced around. Along the way, there were actually 11 people who had been knocked unconscious by his own mental power, directly arriving here. Fortunately, this wasn't the street outside. Otherwise, with so many people lying in front of his house, wouldn't he have to pay for it? Li Zongjie held the medicinal herbs that he had just dug up with one hand, and kicked the people into the river, beside him one after another. Plop, plop. One by one, they fell into the river, and were directly washed away. By now, Li Zongjie had sent away nearly 20 people. These 20 people would most likely miss this round of assessment. Li Zongjie carefully planted the medicinal herbs he had transplanted in the courtyard. The surrounding plants were all helpful to the 5-colored soft intestine flower. At the same time, the spiritual energy released was enough to let the 5-colored soft intestine flower grow quickly. Such a perfect environment. After preparing, Li Zongjie planted the seeds in his arms. Next, he only needed to water it with spiritual energy every day. It's really the first time I've planted medicinal herbs so carefully. In the past, Li Zongjie also had a herb mountain. However, this herb mountain only grew some common elixirs. Some of the extremely precious elixirs had extremely harsh living conditions. They weren't something that could be grown just because one wanted to. You would need to use some extremely precise methods to do so. In the past, Li Zongjie also left the medicinal herb mountain to other people to take care of. Now this careful cultivation also made Li Zongjie more vividly feel the process of planting spiritual herbs. It's done. Li Zongjie also set up a spiritual energy here to pay attention to the growth of the 5-colored soft intestine flower. Now that it had just been planted, he couldn't use strong spiritual energy to water it. Otherwise, the seed would directly die. On the top of the mountain, in a remote corner, Zhang Heshuan also found a treasured land and planted his seed directly. At the same time, his technique was similar to Li Zongjie's. However, he didn't have so much energy to transplant it. He just directly placed some vitality stones around the seed. He used the seed to help stabilize the spiritual energy. How's the kid's situation? Zhang Hexuan meditated in front of the seed. This time, another person came out to ask. I don't know what kind of trap was set around that kid. Anyone who got close to him fainted and was directly thrown into the river by Li Zongjiu. Now no one dares to provoke him. A bunch of trash. Zhang Hexuan opened his eyes and scolded angrily. Although there are no meta beasts in the western city's medicinal forest, there are some small hunting insects that can't be restrained. I have a bottle of fever powder here. You just need to sprinkle it within 100 steps of the house, and it will attract the termites in the medicinal forest. At that time, I want that kid's seed to be completely eaten. This move is awesome. The subordinate's eyes suddenly lit up. But our seed hasn't been planted yet. Give it to me. Chapter 277. That night, two black figures took advantage of the darkness to approach Li Zongjiu's small house. From afar, they could see that Li Zongjiu's house was still lit. This made them extremely envious. This brat, he actually enjoys life so much. Where did he get this house? The people who saw this scene also made the two young masters very jealous. If they were in the city, they could indulge in debauchery every night. However, in this medicinal forest, they could not even call for help. Even if they wanted to call for two girls to have some fun, it was impossible. If they directly went out during this process, it would be equivalent to being eliminated. Is this fanatic powder really useful? One of them asked in a low voice. Nonsense, didn't you read the books? This fanatic powder can last for 3 days without dissipating. Even if it's raining heavily, there's no way to get rid of it. At the same time, it can attract termites within a radius of 1,000 meters. These termites have extremely strong vitality and can't be killed no matter how hard you try. This fanatic powder is usually used to get rid of termites. Oh, you really know a lot. I couldn't tell. That person also cast a look of admiration. He did not expect that this person who fooled around all day actually had real skills. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain the use of the fanatic powder. It seemed that among these brothers, only he was truly ignorant and incompetent. The others had more or less learned a thing or two. When he thought of this, he secretly made up his mind to master one of his skills in the future. No, there's a description on this bottle. Although the fanatic powder was not a rare thing, in a place like this, it was in existence similar to a divine weapon. Where are we going? Just get within 100 steps. Once these termites come close, they will look for things with spiritual energy to gnaw on. At that time, they will naturally devour that brat's medicinal forest. This time he said, "Let's go, you cover for me." The two figures quietly groped their way over. The roar of the waterfall was right next to them, so the sound of their footsteps was masked. They only needed to slightly conceal their bodies and not be so brazen. In this forest, coupled with the lack of light, they could still approach very stealthily. However, when they got close, they were prepared to sprinkle the fanatic powder. However, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Not good. This gust of wind suddenly blew on their bodies. It seemed like dust was blown into their eyes. They immediately closed their eyes and coughed for a while. By the time they reacted, they immediately realized that something was wrong. Fanatic powder. The two were shocked at the same time. The fanatic powder in their hands had already been completely scattered. However, there was not even a single drop on the ground. All of them were blown onto their bodies by that gust of wind. It's all scattered on us, this damn wind. Now what the fuck do? What else can we do? Let's get the antidote from Zhang Hexuan. The two threw down the bottle and ran away. If they had been a little later, the termites would have rushed over and eaten them completely. These termites, when there were only 1 or 2 of them, were not a big deal. However, when the number of termites suddenly increased, it would become a disaster. They could easily eat you completely. Moreover, these termites moved at an extremely fast speed. Some of them even had the ability to fly. Coupled with their small size, they could be said to be omnipresent. If one did not take good care of it, they could crawl into one's crotch in the middle of the night and eat you completely. However, the two of them were attacked by termites on their way back. They fled all the way and even forgot how to go back. Li Zhongjiu, who was in the small house, just shook his head indifferently. These people are really boring. With these people's abilities, they wanted to subdue Li Zhongjiu. It was simply a joke. If not for Li Zhongjiu's apprehension that he was going to enter the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor to study, he would have killed all of them. Those who dared to offend the evil lord should be prepared to be tortured and killed. Li Zhongjiu was just that ruthless. There was no room for discussion. After sending these people away, Li Zhongjiu immersed himself in his own cultivation. In the next 2 days, no one came to disturb Li Zhongjiu. Even Beihou Liang had secretly observed Li Zhongjiu a few times and discovered that Li Zhongjiu had actually set up a spiritual array around him. He didn't dare to rashly approach him. Among the rich kids, Beihou Liang had a certain reputation and strength. He would not be so reckless. In addition to the 2 days before, 2 people were plotted against by Li Zhongjiu. It was said that halfway through running, they were almost dragged away by a group of termites. Such a terrible thing happened, and it was definitely related to Li Zhongjiu. However, because there was no evidence, they could not say anything. On the one hand, in these 2 days, the 5-colored soft intestine flowers that should have bloomed should have some movement. Some people did not control the quantity at the beginning, and some were too hasty. In the end, they directly killed the flower. No matter where this useless seed was planted, even if it was planted for 100 years, it still wouldn't blossom. Many people who had bloomed were very careful to protect it. Now it was just a flower bud. In order to really bloom, it still needed the injection of spiritual energy. At the same time, it was to prevent some extreme people from spoiling the other seeds after they died. However, Zhang Heshuan was protected by Beihou Liang. After receiving some warnings, no one went to disturb Beihou Liang. Li Zhongjiu opened his eyes and looked up at the roof. Then, he walked out of the door and saw a girl in a white dress with a ponytail squatting on the roof of his house. She was looking down carefully, and the place where her gaze landed was the place where Li Zhongjiu planted the 5-color soft intestine flowers. Who are you? Li Zhongjiu looked at the girl on the roof. This girl's ability was not simple. She could easily avoid his spiritual formation. If she did not come close, Li Zhongjiu would not have noticed that she had appeared on his roof. I am the invigilator. Someone reported that your spiritual formation broke the rules, so I came to take a look. The girl did not jump down, but continued to stay on the roof. Oh, broke the rules? Li Zhongjiu asked. It's not considered breaking the rules, but I am a little surprised that you used turmeric to seal the spiritual energy. What is your name? The girl with the ponytail asked. Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu replied. After all, the other party was the invigilator. He did not expect that one day, he would be invigilated by such a little girl. What goes around comes around, and in an instant it came to Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu, are you from the Li family of Lanhua City? No. Oh, it's okay. You can do it. Someone has already opened 1 color. Looking at you, it seems that it will not be easy to open 2 colors. The girl with the ponytail said. Then, she got up and jumped easily. Like a giant white bird, she flew towards the sky. With a boom, she disappeared in front of his eyes. I opened 1 color so fast. Li Zhongjiu looked at his seed. Until now it was still buried in the soil, and there was no movement at all. However, Li Zhongjiu was not in a hurry. This seed needed to be properly brewed. Now was not the time to be anxious. Another 3 days passed. It had been 5 days since the beginning. Zhang Heshuan looked at the 5-colored soft intestine flower that had opened 2 colors. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. Now, the number of people should be less than 1/10 of the original number. The most popular person who can open a flower is definitely not more than 20 people. Although I have a 2-colored flower now, I want to win first place. There are still 2 days, and I can open 1 more color. In order to completely defeat that person, and let him know what was called an insurmountable gap between them. A genius is a genius. Some people are born noble, like me, who is born noble. Some people are born lowly like Li Zhongjiu, who is born lowly. This kind of person must be stepped on, ruthlessly trampled on, ruthlessly trampled on. Chapter 278. You've finally grown a little bud. Li Zongjie was pleasantly surprised when he saw that his seed had sprouted. Hey Li Zongjie, there are only 2 days left. Can you make it in time? A figure landed on Li Zongjie's roof. Li Zongjie could not help but raise his head to look at the young lady in front of him. She came here almost every day. Wouldn't she be annoyed by it? Of course. Li Zongjie said indifferently, although there were only 2 days left. In fact, the first few days were used to lay the foundation. If the foundation was not stable, it might wither directly and could not live for long. Since the foundation was already laid, there was no need to wait. Li Zongjie immediately took out a 3-flower energy-gathering pill. The effect of this pill was clear. When he took out the 3-flower soul-gathering pill, the ponytailed girl almost cried out. 3-flower energy-gathering pill? You want to use a grade 4 pill to grow the flower? The ponytailed girl was obviously shocked. Even if Li Zongjie's family background was mysterious, he might not be rich enough to use a grade 4 pill as nourishment. This was simply too heroic and overbearing. It was unbearable. Is this against the rules? Li Zongjie could not help but ask. No, it's not against the rules. The young lady hesitated for a moment before replying. Soon after, she stared blankly as Li Zongjie ground the 3-flower yuan gathering pill in his hand. Every time he ground it, the young lady could feel as if her heart was placed on a whetstone as she continuously rubbed it back and forth. This was simply too shocking. In just a short while, the Triflower Soul Gathering Pill had turned into a pile of powder. The powder was catalyzed by Li Zongjie and buried in the soil. The effect of the 3-flower energy gathering pill was indeed very strong. In just one morning, a flower of the same color had already bloomed. The effect was obvious as Li Zongjie saw. Not bad. Li Zongjie nodded in satisfaction. One 3-flower energy gathering pill was obviously not enough. Li Zongjie took out another 3-flower energy gathering pill. The ponytailed girl on the roof saw this scene and suddenly widened her eyes. This can't be a fake pill, right? Li Zongjie must have taken out this pill to scare people. In fact, it was just a fake pill, right? However, the ponytailed girl could clearly feel the power of the pill itself. She could clearly feel that it was a grade 4 pill. And it was in the middle of the 3-flower energy gathering pill. The effect of this pill was definitely a very high-quality pill. It was because of this that the young girl was so shocked. She almost couldn't believe her eyes. Don't you feel bad? This is a 4th-grade medicinal pill. The girl could not help but ask. Is it a foul? Li Zongjie asked again. It's not against the rules. Then you don't have to care so much. Li Zongjie said faintly. The pills that he had refined were not enough for him. This little girl had been staring at him all day long. He did not know if she had any ulterior motives. In these last 2 days, he had to keep a close eye on her. Otherwise, if the pills were to be destroyed by this little girl, Li Zongjie would have the heart to kill her. Even if this little girl did not show any hostility, Li Zongjie had to be on guard. When the ponytailed girl saw what Li Zongjie was doing, she continued to grind the pills into powder. 2 grade 4 pills had been wasted. Li Zongjie was really unscrupulous in order to pass the test. What a waste, what a waste. The ponytailed girl could not stand it anymore. She held her forehead and shook left and right. Li Zongjie could be said to be completely disappointed in Li Zongjie. She let him do whatever he wanted. But now the girl was finally relieved. Because if Li Zongjie was like this, passing the assessment would not be a problem. Although this process was a little wasteful, for an alchemist, pills were nothing. They knew how to refine pills. It seemed that there must be a very strong alchemist in Li Zongjie's family. Otherwise, with Li Zongjie's prodigal behavior, his family would have thrown Li Zongjie out long ago. The girl saw that Li Zongjie's 5-colored soft intestine flower was about to succeed. She was also happy. Then the girl left the place. As an invigilator, she could not only keep an eye on Li Zongjie, but also on the other candidates. At this moment, there were less than 100 candidates left in the medicinal forest. The elimination rate was still very scary, because they only had one chance to treat the seeds in their hands well. Some people gave up early, and some people did not even know how to plant it. After planting it, there was no reaction at all. Even if they watered it themselves, there was no sign of it taking root or sprouting. There were also some who were showing signs of improvement. But some people who wanted to destroy it directly uprooted the young seedlings, using such a method to eliminate others. Of course, such a situation was very rare. After all, this was a way to make enemies. There was even a possibility that one would be blacklisted by the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Although talent was very important, if there was a big problem with one's character, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would seriously consider whether to continue teaching you. After all, if a random evil person were to go out and have such a strong power, it could even bring a huge disaster to the Shunyan dynasty. They would rather not teach you than nurture you into a huge malignant tumor. Less than 100 people. The competition was so intense. Just like that, another day passed. Beiho Liang saw from afar that a two-colored soft intestine flower had bloomed in Li Zhongjio's courtyard. His eyes were filled with shock. 2 days ago, there was nothing in Li Zhongjio's courtyard. There were only some weeds and the like. But in the blink of an eye, it actually bloomed with 2 colors. This caused Beiho Liang to be incomparably shocked. But soon, the corner of Beiho Liang's mouth curled up into a cold smile. Although I don't know what method you used, I guarantee that you have no way of growing this flower. Beiho Liang sneered. Then he looked around, worried that he would be discovered by others. Then he took out something from the storage ring. He took out a black box. There seemed to be something sealed in this black box. Even Beiho Liang carefully opened it. When Beiho Liang opened the box, there was a black bone finger inside. This finger was as black as ink and as hard as iron. At the same time, there seemed to be some kind of terrifying power hidden in this black bone finger. It wasn't easy for me to get this black bone finger. Today, I'll let you know what it means to be too late for regrets. Immediately, Beiho Liang buried the black bone finger underground and casually dug a hole that was 10 meters deep. After the black bone finger was buried in the hole, in less than an hour, the surrounding spiritual energy would dry up and even be eroded by the power of darkness. There was only 1 day left. The range wouldn't be too far. He just needed to dig out this black bone finger in time. In this way, he would make Li Zhongjio's soft intestine flower completely lose all hope of survival. No one could remain intact under the erosion of the power of darkness. After doing all this, Beiho Liang covered up the surrounding traces. He only needed to come back tomorrow to retrieve this black bone finger. This black bone finger was obtained by Beiho Liang from the black market. Just from this terrifying power of darkness, he knew that the owner of this bone was not ordinary. You're still too inexperienced to fight with me. In order to prevent this matter from being exposed, Beiho Liang deliberately moved to another place. However, he didn't know that Li Zhongjio had already sensed it when he took out the black bone finger. What a pure power of darkness! In reality, it wasn't Li Zhongjio who sensed it. It was the black dragon's origin soul in the origin pearl that clearly sensed it. That was why Li Zhongjio was able to sense this power instantly. After Beiho Liang left, Li Zhongjio's figure appeared. It's this old schemer again. Chapter 279. Looking at Beiho Liang's departure, Li Zhongjio did not make a move to deal with Beiho Liang. That guy was quite powerful now. He was actually a disciple of the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion. That meant that he was now an invigilator. If he killed him here, he would definitely offend the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion. It seemed that if he wanted to kill this guy, he would have to enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion. However, if this Beiho Liang went too far, Li Zhongjio did not mind letting this Beiho Liang disappear in the darkness. Even his corpse would not be found. Destroying the corpse would remove all traces. In the end, the investigation would be fruitless. If it was not a last resort, Li Zhongjio would not do such a thing. After all, as the evil lord in his previous life, he rarely killed people in the dark. After all, in the past he would kill people in front of them. Li Zhongjio dug up the soil on the surface. His mental power instantly penetrated the ground and pushed away the soil on the surface. Even when his mental power touched the black bone finger, He felt a hot burning sensation. Found you. Li Zongjio picked up the black bone finger. When the black bone finger appeared in his hand, Li Zongjio was quite shocked. Although I don't know the origin of this thing, the owner of this thing should not be simple. Even now, he could already sense the frightening dark energy contained within this black bone finger. This was merely a finger. If it was an entire arm, or even an entire set of bones, just how frightening would it be? This guy actually gave me such a treasure. Li Zongjio immediately smiled coldly. If that guy wanted to destroy his flower, he would naturally use all kinds of methods. Fortunately, this time it was a lucky hit. Such a good thing. Li Zongjio would gladly accept it. There was only 1 day left until the end of the examination. Therefore, Li Zongjio did not refine this black bone finger on the spot. Instead, he put away the black bone finger and returned to the courtyard to nurture his 5-colored soft intestine flower. Li Zongjio also realized that this kind of careful cultivation and planting of such a small thing, it was indeed a waste of time. If he had the time, he might as well go to the market and buy it. The next day, at the entrance of the Western City Herb Forest, there was only a tiny bit left in the enormous hourglass. There was less than 15 minutes left before the end of the competition. If someone was not able to make it in time, they would have lost their qualification even if they had completed the refinement. Shang Diqing and the others had already set up a long table at the entrance to receive and register the items. Before this, 15 people had already walked out with the soft intestine flowers. However, all of them only got one color. But compared to those who had been eliminated, these people were already successful. Shang Diqing stood at the side, neither happy nor sad. His gaze was fixed on the forest. They were waiting for that figure to appear. Oh, they're here. Shang Diqing's eyes finally lit up. Although these people who had cultivated the soft intestine flower were not bad, they had not reached the level of excellence. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would only accept the most outstanding people. 2-colored soft intestine flower. To be able to cultivate it in such a short time, it's not bad. Shang Diqing heard a voice in front of him. The person who had brought the 2-colored soft intestine flower was a young girl in plain clothes with an ice-cold face. Although the young girl's expression was serious, when she saw that her 2-colored soft intestine flower was recorded, she finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she had passed. Moreover, this 2-colored soft intestine flower was also a real material. These days, it could be said that this young girl was exhausted. This girl is the disciple of an old friend of mine. Han Qinglu saw that the girl had succeeded and could not help but let out a sigh of relief. This result was not bad. Not bad, not bad. It's a little amazing. Shang Diqing nodded. Finally, there was someone he was satisfied with. However, he really wanted to see how this person's result would be. Examiners, directors, greetings. Zhang Hushuan's face carried a smile that was enough to charm some innocent girls. At the same time, he waved his hand. Suddenly, a potted plant appeared on the table. This potted plant was the 5-colored soft intestine flower. 4 colors. It actually bloomed with 4 colors. The ice-cold girl was still immersed in the joy of her success when she was suddenly interrupted by this exclamation. She could not help but turn her head and look. She happened to see the pot of 4-colored soft intestine flower in Zhang Hushuan's hand. 4 colors. The ice-cold girl counted in disbelief. There were indeed 4 colors. Although the 4th color was just a faint line. However, it was indeed born with 4 colors. She had tried her best, but she had only managed to nurture 2 colors. This Zhang Hushuan is quite capable. The ice-cold girl remembered this Zhang Hushuan. The people present were also extremely shocked. Even Shang Diqing's face revealed a smile. Haha, not bad, not bad. It seems that the first place of this assessment is undoubtedly yours. Shang Diqing said. The 2 female disciples of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor were naturally extremely shocked. He actually managed to cultivate a 4-colored soft intestine flower. He's really amazing. The ponytailed girl's mouth was slightly shocked. I knew it. This kid's potential is not bad. The female disciple who was slightly more mature also pursed her rosy lips. She seemed to be thinking about something. Well done. Beihou Liang's eyes lit up. Sure enough, He was not mistaken. This Sun Crane was quite capable. Zhang Hushuan also heaved a sigh of relief. Although the people in front of him were all more powerful than him, he could not help but show a trace of pride on his face. This was the pride he should have. Wait, look at that person's hand. What is that? Oh my God, this can't be fake, right? The teachers and disciples present were also extremely shocked. They all looked forward, as if they had seen something incredible. Shang Diqing and the others also followed the crowd's gaze and looked over. Immediately, Shang Diqing's eyes revealed a shocked light. What's going on? Seeing the change in Shang Diqing's and the others' expressions, even Zhang Hushuan was surprised. Could it be that there was someone more powerful than him among these people? Although he did not like Li Zongjiu, Zhang Hushuan believed that he could easily defeat Li Zongjiu, even if he did not use any tricks. Moreover, before yesterday, Beihou Liang also gave Li Zongjiu a big gift. Now Li Zongjiu should be holding his withered soft intestine flower in pain. When Zhang Hushuan turned around, he saw a figure slowly walking in front of him. His pupils immediately shrank. At this moment, Zhang Hushuan's heart was filled with incomparable shock and astonishment. This is impossible. Zhang Hushuan directly denied it. However, the figure in the distance had already walked over. They saw Li Zongjiu slowly walking over with a pot of soft intestine flower in his hand. The soft intestine flower in his hand had bloomed with a total of 5 colors. When these 5 colors appeared before their eyes, they were like 5 flamboyant knives that were incomparably dazzling and eye-catching. It was these things that had given Zhang Hushuan a heavy blow. Li Zongjiu had actually cultivated a soft intestine flower with 5 different colors. This was the true 5-colored soft intestine flower. How is this possible? In a short 7 days, even though he had used a secret technique, the soft intestine flower had barely bloomed with a 4th color. Furthermore, this 4th color was just barely passable. However, Li Zongjiu had actually managed to cultivate this soft intestine flower with 5 different colors. He had cultivated it to be extremely plump and transparent. This was simply a world of difference. It was as if he had just barely entered the origin general realm. However, the other was already at the peak of the origin ancestor realm. One could imagine the disparity between the two. As for Li Zongjiu, he wasn't surprised that the 5-colored soft intestine flower had survived, even though he knew that his 5-colored soft intestine flower would bring some shock and astonishment. However, when they saw the faces of these people, they all opened their mouths wide in shock. Their eyes were also filled with astonishment as they stared intently at the flower in his hand. He had never imagined that these people would be so astonished. Was there a need to make such a fuss? Given the ability of Evil Lord in his previous life, it wasn't surprising that he was able to do this. This is my flower. Li Zongjiu placed the 5-colored soft intestine flower on the table as he spoke softly. He had finally broken the shocked and solemn atmosphere of these people before him. Chapter 280. Impossible. I just observed your flower the day before yesterday, and it hasn't bloomed yet. How could you bloom 5 colors in less than 2 days? How dare you use such a despicable method to deceive us? Heavenly Star Medicine Manor will not tolerate shameless people like you. Beihou Liang roared angrily, waking everyone up in an instant. It was almost impossible to cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower in such a short period of time. Even if Director Shang Diqing did it personally, he wouldn't be able to achieve such a level. Therefore, it was very likely that Li Zongjiu had secretly prepared a pot of 5-colored soft intestine flower that had already bloomed. In fact, the seed had already been thrown away by Li Zongjiu. Hearing Beihou Liang's words, everyone revealed an expression of understanding. Even if he was a genius, he only needed one Zhang Hushuan to appear. Now that there was one Zhang Hushuan, there could be another monster that was 100 times more abnormal than Zhang Hushuan. Didn't that mean that they were all useless? The cold woman looked at Li Zongjiu with contempt and mockery. When she knew that Li Zongjiu actually used such a method, she had already labeled Li Zongjiu as a hypocrite. Such a person was a piece of trash. Director, I saw it with my own eyes. Besides, Junior Gongjiu also saw it with her own eyes. If you don't believe me, you can ask Junior Gongjiu. Bei Holiang said. Everyone's eyes were focused on the ponytailed girl. She was Gongjiu. Because of her curiosity about Li Zongjiu, she paid special attention to Li Zongjiu these days. However, she also followed the rules very well. She couldn't have any direct contact with the examinees. She couldn't even get too close to them. Moreover, a few days ago, Li Zongjiu's 5-colored soft intestine flower only bloomed one color. She saw it with her own eyes. Today, when she saw Li Zongjiu holding a 5-colored soft intestine flower, even she didn't dare to believe it. The difference in levels was too great. 2 days ago, at dawn, Li Zongjiu's 5-colored soft intestine flower seedling only bloomed one color. I was there, but I saw it with my own eyes. Li Zongjiu used the powder of the 3 flowers energy gathering pill to cultivate it, but I didn't see the final result. Gongjiu gritted his teeth and said. He knew that the first part of his speech might be disadvantageous to Li Zongjiu, but the second part of his speech told everyone that Li Zongjiu definitely had the strength to do so. It's only been a day and a half since dawn the day before yesterday. In just a day and a half, you were able to open 5 colors from 1 color. Is this possible? Li Zongjiu, you should get out of here. There are so many alchemists present. Do you think it's difficult to identify the age of a medicinal herb? Bei Holiang said coldly. At this moment, he had already determined that Li Zongjiu just casually picked a medicinal herb to make up for the scene. Just this kind of behavior was enough to make Li Zongjiu get out of here, and put him on the blacklist of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. This Li Zongjiu would be completely banned. Kid, now you know how powerful I am. Li Zongjiu didn't care about the surrounding people's doubtful and disdainful gazes. His gaze searched for a while, and finally landed on Han Qinglu and Shang Diqing. You're a 4th-grade alchemist, right? Come and test it, then you'll know. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. And you slandered my reputation. Prepare to pay the price. Li Zongjiu looked at Bei Holiang. Bei Holiang also saw Li Zongjiu's cold gaze, and his heart was slightly startled. This Li Zongjiu was serious. This gaze was really terrifying. However, this was the Black North Giant City, the place where Bei Holiang lived. What was there to be afraid of? At most, he would find someone to kill this kid. It wouldn't cost much. At that time, he would let Li Zongjiu know why people's lives were so cheap. After thinking about it, he felt relieved. Bluff. Alliance Master Han, please. Shang Diqing waved his hand and said. Both of them were 4th-grade alchemists. The person Li Zongjiu mentioned just now was naturally Han Qinglu. Han Qinglu cupped his hands. As a 4th-grade alchemist, he naturally knew that this 5-colored soft intestine flower was full of vitality and vitality. It wasn't in a declining state, nor was it spoiled by excessive enthusiasm. Obviously, it had just grown. However, in order to conduct a more accurate inspection, Han Qinglu also came in front of the pot of 5-colored soft intestine flower and cupped his hands towards Li Zongjiu. If Li Zongjiu could really cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower that was comparable to a 4th-grade alchemist in these short 7 days, then his future achievements were also worthy of Han Qinglu's deep friendship. After mingling in this world for so many years, Han Qinglu was very clear about one thing. That was, don't underestimate a person's potential. The gap between them was really too big. Some people simply didn't need a long time to turn from a pheasant into a phoenix. In the blink of an eye, it would give you a big surprise. Han Qinglu gently plucked a leaf from the 5-colored soft intestine flower. Then, a yuan power flame seeped out from his palm and instantly burned the leaf. However, during the burning process, the flame also changed along with the burning of the leaf. In the end, the flame showed a green color. The age of this medicinal herb is less than a month. My appraisal flame is accurate to the month. This 5-colored soft intestine flower definitely grew in less than a month. Han Qinglu said. These words could be considered as throwing out a heavy bomb. After all, it was only a month. Thus, it was very possible that it was cultivated by Li Zongjiu. To be able to possess such a cultivation, it was even more evident that this Han Qinglu's cultivation was not simple. Alliance Master Han's words cannot be confirmed. This flower was cultivated by Li Zongjiu in these 7 days. It is not impossible to cultivate a 5-colored soft intestine flower in a month's time using some special method. Beihou Liang said indifferently. As long as no one was able to determine that this 5-colored soft intestine flower was cultivated by Li Zhongjiu and Azi in these 7 days, this Li Zhongjiu would not be able to wash away the suspicion. No matter what, he could not allow Li Zhongjiu to get away with it like this. Even if he was truly the one who cultivated the 5-colored soft intestine flower, with him, Beihou Liang here today, he could forget about proving it. Han Qinglu did not say anything else. This matter was of great importance. If he were to say anything more, he would easily offend others. Naturally, he did not place this Beihou Liang in his eyes. Naturally, he was afraid of offending this head Shangdiqing. After all, up until now, Shangdiqing had not said anything. However, it could be seen that Shangdiqing was extremely satisfied with this Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu, you're still not scramming? Are you waiting for me to send someone to drive you away? Beihou Liang said. Li Zhongjiu did not say anything. Are you going to tell me the markings on this 5-colored soft intestine flower, or should I? Li Zhongjiu looked at Shangdiqing and slowly said. When Shangdiqing heard this, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Ha ha ha. You've got guts, you've got guts. Record Li Zhongjiu's results. This time, only 3 people will pass the assessment. My Celestial Day Medicine Manor only recruits the best of the best. Those who have managed to nurture the same color are considered outstanding. I recommend that you all go to other medicine manors to learn. My Celestial Day Medicine Manor only recruits 3 people in the Black North Metropolis. These were the final 3 people. Naturally, they were Li Zhongjiu, Zhang Hexuan, and the ice-cold woman Yao Lei. This woman's background was not small. She was the disciple of Han Qinglu's old friend. Han Qinglu himself was a Tier 4 alchemist. Naturally, his old friend was also at the same level. However, he had never revealed her identity before this. Now that she had been revealed, it caused many people in the city to exclaim in surprise. In the huge Black North giant city, only these 3 people passed the assessment. Although it was said that there would be another assessment after arriving at the Holy Yin City. However, this was already a victory. In fact, if one went to the Holy Yin City and failed the assessment, there was actually a chance. That was to study in the Heavenly Stellar Medicine Manor for a month. If one's performance was outstanding, there might be an exception to recruit them. Although it was said to be the highest institution, it was not willing to miss out on talents. If one really had potential and talent, then they would think of a way to stay. However, if one really did not have a way to display one's talent, then they could only return to where they came from. Li Zhongjiu was recruited. Beihou Liang couldn't say anything. After all, it was personally announced by the director. What right did he have to interrupt? After all, the Beihou family was only a 2nd-tier city. If he, Beihou Liang, was the young master of a 1st-tier city, then this situation would not have happened. There were countless 2nd-tier cities. In the Heavenly Stellar Medicine Manor, his status could be said to be at the bottom. If he did not have the ability, before long, this Sun Crane would be able to climb to the top of his head as well. Beihou Liang did not speak anymore. However, he remembered this grudge, because Li Zhongjiu actually made a fool of him in public. Chapter 281. He had said so much in the beginning, but in the end, no one listened to him. This made him lose face. This was a complete loss of face in front of everyone. This made Beihou Liang feel his face burning. Li Zhongjiu did not put him in his eyes at all. After dismissing the rest of the people, Shangdiqing also gave the remaining 3 people a scroll each. The contents of the scroll showed that it was an examination ticket. Although you have passed the examination of the Black North Giant City, you will have to compete with people from the 12 prefectures, nearly 100 2nd-class cities, 30 1st-class cities, and the Sacred Flame Royal City for the quota. With your strength, if you work hard in the last half a month, there is still a great hope. Shangdiqing said. Yao Lei's eyes were fixed on a ray of light. She had worked hard, but in the end, she would have to face so many opponents. These opponents could be said to be on the same level as her, or even higher than her. Therefore, this was a very tough battle. Zhang Hushuan's eyes were also burning with fighting spirit. The only person present who did not have any fluctuations, and was even thinking about his own matters, was Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio had nothing to say. Enemies and the like were all fleeting clouds in his eyes. If you were not fleeting clouds, then he would turn you into a pile of smoke. Shang Diqing memorized Li Zongjio's words. After all, to be able to do this, Li Zongjio was definitely a very powerful person. However, there were too many people like him. In the entire Xingyan dynasty, there were countless elites and powerful people. They had even become third-grade alchemists at a young age. This kind of ability was already extremely outstanding among his peers. If he could become a fourth-grade alchemist, he would be directly recruited into the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Of course, he still had to go through the formalities. Half a month later, after passing the test, they would have to bring the admission ticket to Holy Yen City for the final test and selection. Because the Xingyan dynasty was too big, some places had only just begun the test. It would take some time to go through the entire process. Shang Diqing and the others were not responsible for the safety of Li Zongjio and the others. He did not lead the way for them either. After all, this was not a small expense. On the same day, Shang Diqing and the others returned. The situation here needed to be reported in a timely manner. Even Beiho Liang followed Shang Diqing back to the city. Before returning, Beiho Liang also returned to the western city's medicinal forest to retrieve his dark hand bone. However, when he returned to the place where he buried the hand bone a few days ago, no matter how hard he searched, he could not find his dark hand bone. How is that possible? I clearly buried it here. I brought it back as a gift for eldest senior brother. Where did my dark hand bone go? Beiho Liang was in a panic right now. In order to get that thing, he had paid a huge price and spent a lot of sweat. In the end, he still managed to get that thing. Money was a small matter, but he had to do a lot of favors and things that he had to ask people to settle. After all, this kind of power could be said to be a forbidden item. Finally, after a series of operations, it was placed in the black market to be traded. However, it was now missing. One could imagine how panicked Beiho Liang was in his heart. Damn it, it must be with that kid. Li Zongjio, just you wait. If you don't let me live well, I won't let you live well either. Beiho Liang roared. This Li Zongjio really did not shed tears until he saw the coffin. He actually wanted to step on Beiho Liang's head. However, there was no time now. He must meet up with the director and the others. Wait until we reach Holy Yen City. See how I will deal with you. At this moment in the city, Li Zongjio, Han Qinglu, and the cold-faced woman were walking together. This person had also passed the assessment. Although Li Zongjio did not care, those who could pass the assessment were not bad. However, Li Zongjio did not put them in his eyes. Han Qinglu looked at Li Zongjio, who was beside him, and his heart skipped a beat. Little Li, where are you from? Wuxia City. Li Zongjio said while looking straight ahead. His attitude was extremely dull. However, Han Qinglu did not show any dissatisfaction. After all, Li Zongjio had cultivated the 5-colored soft intestine flower in such a short time. His potential was limitless. Once Li Zongjio entered the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Mansion, he would certainly be a young elite when he came out. If such a person could be recruited into the Alchemist Alliance, then it would be a huge fortune. Wuxia City, the most beautiful city in the south. Although it is located in a remote area, it is indeed a beautiful place. Han Qinglu said. Obviously, Han Qinglu also had some understanding of Wuxia City. When I was young, I also went to Wuxia City. I saw the scenery of Wuxia and Lone Centipede flying together. It was indeed breathtaking. Li Zongjio looked at Han Qinglu in surprise. He was indeed an experienced person. He knew how to arouse people's interest in chatting. Li Zongjio would have ignored Han Qinglu if he had talked about how much he would pay, and how much he would pay if he joined the Alchemist Alliance. However, Han Qinglu was very smart. He told Li Zongjio about Wuxia City. Who was Li Zongjio? He was a person who had been reborn. Therefore, he loved and cherished his hometown even more. Now that he heard someone praising his hometown, he naturally had a good impression of this person. Of course, the scenery of my Wuxia City is unparalleled in the world, Li Zongjio said. However, There was a hint of confidence in the corner of his mouth. Humph, I don't believe it, Yao Lei said from the side. Obviously, she did not believe that Wuxia city could have such beautiful scenery. Li Zhongjiu also did not refute. If there is an opportunity in the future, you can cooperate with our Wuxia city, Li Zhongjiu said. This was a friendly invitation. It would be good for the Li family to make friends with some forces outside. Listening to Li Zhongjiu's words, Han Qinglu nodded. Of course. That's right. I noticed that you haven't taken the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's Alchemist assessment. If you are able to take the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's assessment, it will be beneficial for you. Alchemists like us can also have a good exchange, Han Qinglu said. That kind of assessment is useless to me. I don't need it, Li Zhongjiu said lightly. Yao Lei heard Li Zhongjiu's words and immediately thought that Li Zhongjiu was deliberately putting on an act. That was the assessment of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. If he could get a title, it would be a golden signboard. No matter where he went, people would recognize him. However, after thinking about it, Li Zhongjiu was able to cultivate the 7-colored soft intestine flower in 7 days. Although she did not know what method he used, it was definitely powerful enough. Maybe Li Zhongjiu really did not care? Han Qingmiu's eyes moved. Then he took out a token from his sleeve. Li friend, this is the Foreign Affairs Elder token of the Black North Medicine Alliance. I don't have anything else with me. With this token, all the consumer facilities in the city, including the purchase of medicinal herbs, can be discounted. If you have any business dealings with the Wuxia city in the future, no matter who it is, you will receive generous gifts with this token. Another token. Did these people not have anything to give? In his previous life, Li Zhongjiu had received a bunch of tokens. The shapes of these tokens were strange, and there were many symbols on them. In the end, he could not remember all of them. But now, these tokens might be able to bring convenience to the Li family. Looking at Han Qingmiu's sincere eyes, Li Zhongjiu took it. Okay, I'll give you face. You're a good person. That's all. See you next time. Li Zhongjiu took the token. He casually threw it into the storage ring. Later, he would find time to send it to the Wuxia city. Li Zhongjiu was not clear about the current situation in the Wuxia city. But with Luo Sha and the other two guarding the city, plus the existence of the Fog Snow Pill sect, there should not be any problem. As long as Li Zhongjiu's mental strength continued to grow stronger, he would be able to communicate with the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle from thousands of miles away. In that case, he would be able to know the situation of the family. Li Zhongjiu directly left. Han Qinglu and Yao Lei also stopped. An impolite guy, Yao Lei coldly snorted. Don't underestimate Li Zhongjiu. He may be a 4th-grade alchemist. Han Qinglu slowly said. What this? How is this possible? Yao Lei suddenly opened her mouth in surprise. But from the mouth of Grandpa Han, if he was not sure, he would not say it so confidently. This Li Zhongjiu, a 4th-grade alchemist. Chapter 282. Yao Lei's mood could not calm down for a long time. Li Zhongjiu always had a cool and indifferent look on his face, as if he was an extraordinary expert, and the people around him were just ordinary people. Most importantly, Li Zhongjiu was only interested in his own affairs. Even if the entire Xianbei giant city was attacked by metabeasts, he would not even blink an eye. Such a person. It was really troublesome. Such an indifferent character was also annoying. Although Yao Lei's character was also relatively indifferent, it was only to prevent some annoying flies. Yao Lei didn't mind interacting with some young talents. When she was in the Western City Medicinal Forest, she finally found out that Li Zhongjiu had really cultivated the 5-color soft intestine flower. Because of Beiho Liang's interference, all of this became traceable, and even some things became unreal. So Yao Lei did not feel much. It was not until she heard her Grandpa Han's words that she suddenly remembered. What Li Zhongjiu did, it was impossible for them to achieve even if they worked hard. He did not care about the title of Heavenly Pill Pavilion. He did not even care about the token of the External Affairs Elder of Xianbei Medicine Alliance. It could be seen that Li Zhongjiu really did not care about these things, and was not deliberately pretending in front of him. So at this moment, Yao Lei finally knew why Grandpa Han valued Li Zongjiu so much. It should be known that this was the token of the External Affairs Elder. The status was quite respected. In the entire Xianbei Medicine Alliance, there were only 3 people who had this token, and Li Zongjiu was the 4th. It was just that he was such a young 4th-grade alchemist. Yao Lei still did not believe it in her heart, because it was really too shocking. One had to know that her master, Han Qingliu's grandfather, had only become a grade 4 alchemist at a very old age. Even Yao Lei herself was only a 2nd-grade advanced alchemist now. It would still take a certain amount of time to become a 3rd-grade alchemist. As for becoming a 4th-grade alchemist, her master had said that this required luck. If the opportunity came, he would naturally have the opportunity to become a Tier 4 alchemist. Before that, what he needed to do was to concentrate on his cultivation, build a good foundation, and wait for the opportunity to come. And how old was Li Zongjiu? He was even younger than her. Therefore, Yao Lei temporarily threw this terrifying thought to the back of her mind. 4th-grade alchemist? How could that be? She wouldn't believe it no matter what he said. Li Zongjiu returned to his inn and settled the bill. Li Zongjiu didn't come back for the past 7 days, but the accounts were still in his hands. For ordinary people, this was money that they would never be able to earn in their lifetime. However, Li Zongjiu didn't care. Just the money he received from those rich kids far exceeded this amount by hundreds, or even tens of thousands of times. The owner of Yu Lion didn't take advantage of Li Zongjiu. I'll waive the bill for the next few days. Last time, it was Mayan that let you down. However, the Bei family is very powerful in the city. They may not dare to do anything in the city, but once you leave the city, you have to be careful. The owner of the inn kindly reminded Li Zongjiu. He could tell that Li Zongjiu wasn't an ordinary person. These days, he hadn't returned to the inn, so he thought that Li Zongjiu had something to do with him. Now, it seemed that he had gone to participate in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manners examination. Those who could participate in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manners examination were naturally capable people. The owner of the inn was also apologetic about the previous incident. After all, the other party had spent so much money and still couldn't settle the matter. The main reason was that he didn't dare to provoke the Bei family. "Where's my horse?" Li Zongjiu nodded and asked. Soon the waiter brought the red-maned horse over. Li Zongjiu first went to the relay station and sent the External Affairs Elder's token back to Wuxia City. It might be useful in the future, but if it was left with Li Zongjiu, he wouldn't know where it would end up. The relay station was a transmission link built by the Shengyan dynasty. Almost every day it would move. Even the slightest movement of grass would pass through this relay station and be transmitted. Li Zongjiu rode the red-maned horse and headed north. Sacred Flame City. Sacred Flame City was the center of the entire Shengyan dynasty, and people from all directions came here to pay their respects. It was the gathering place of almost all the experts in the world. It was like the center of a huge whirlpool. Here, one could enjoy a high position. Only here could one become a true expert. If you had the heart to become an expert and wanted to make a name for yourself, you had to come to the Shengyan dynasty. This was a height that the 13 prefectures couldn't reach. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu also spent a lot of time in Sacred Flame City. Because the city was rich in resources, you could get whatever you wanted. As long as you had enough money, you could get whatever you wanted. If you were stuck at a bottleneck, you could find an alchemist and ask him to refine a pill for you. That would solve your problem easily, as long as you could afford it. In Sacred Flame City, there were top alchemists, spirit masters, and elemental inscriptions masters from all over the country. All the top people of different professions gathered here. Ancient Martial Pavilion, Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. These top institutions were also established in Sacred Flame City. There was no reason for top resources not to come to Sacred Flame City. For young people, this was a place with countless opportunities. Things that were difficult, or even impossible to come into contact with in other places, could possibly exist in Holy Yin City. Li Zongjiu sat on the back of a horse and spread out the map in his hand. Start from here and walk for 700 miles. After crossing the Qianding River, you will enter the pass. After entering the pass, walk for another 800 miles, and you will arrive. There weren't any cities near Sacred Flame City. There were only checkpoints and fortresses. Although they were similar in scale to cities, their names and functions were different. In other places, the city lord might have the highest authority. However, in such checkpoints and fortresses, the commander of the army definitely had the highest authority and status. This was because he was in charge of controlling the flow of people in and out of the checkpoints. At the same time, he was also the most direct force that mobilized the troops stationed in various places. No matter where natural or man-made disasters occurred, the soldiers in the checkpoints would rush over as soon as possible. The soldiers' role wasn't just to fight and defend against the enemy. They were almost omnipotent. It was normal for them to contribute to the people. Of course, the checkpoints were also the hubs of transportation. In order to prevent the enemy's army from gathering, they were usually set up near the elemental beast forest. Once there was a big movement, the elemental beast would take the initiative to greet you. In the past, Li Zhongjiu didn't care about these things. However, now it seemed that he had a lot of knowledge. No matter who wanted to rebel, they would first have to break through the 8 checkpoints surrounding Sacred Flame City. At least 1/3 of the checkpoints had to be broken through. Otherwise, the 8 checkpoints would support each other, and one wouldn't have a chance to succeed in a surprise attack. It will be more difficult than ascending to the heavens for the army you lead to approach Holy Flame City. It was a distance of nearly 2,200 miles. In addition to the rugged mountain path and the time needed to travel, 15 days was a little rushed. Li Zhongjiu didn't hesitate. He immediately rode the blood mane horse and headed towards the Qianding River. Ta-ta-ta, the horse galloped. Its speed suddenly soared as if it was stepping on thunder. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed into the distance. Just after Li Zhongjiu galloped away on his horse, on the mountain peak in the distance, there was a group of men in black holding a long tube-like telescope in their hands. They stared at Li Zhongjiu's figure. Since this person is riding a horse, he must be going to the Qianding River to take a boat. We will ambush him on the boat. Yes, young lord said that if we can't bring this person back, we will have to atone for our sins with death. Chapter 283. Qianding River. It was the second largest river in Dingquan province. The river was turbulent, and if one accidentally fell into the water, he would be washed away by the river in less than a minute. At the same time, the river was more than 200 meters wide and was rich in resources. Sometimes, there would even be some meta beasts that would rush out from the water. It was quite dangerous. However, the Shengyan dynasty built some Vajra pillars in the upper and lower reaches of the river to allow people to pass through the river. The purpose of these things was to prevent large meta beasts from crossing the river. As for a bridge, it was impossible to build one because the river was too wide. In addition, the water level rose every year. The river was even more powerful than the meta beasts. Qianding Pier. The merchant ships that came and went ashore here. They were mainly used to transport large items, or large quantities of items. After all, the space of a storage ring was limited. For example, if one wanted to transport some mountain rocks or wooden pillars, how many storage rings would be needed to store them all? A storage ring with a large space was expensive to make, and it was extremely rare. Li Zhongjiu came to the Qianding Pier. The journey of 700 miles took 2 days. Because it was impossible to run all the way, the red mane horse was unwilling to do so. Li Zhongjiu rested for a night along the way. On the second day, he arrived at the Qianding Pier at dawn. The next boat will take 40 minutes. Let's rest. Li Zhongjiu bought 2 boat tickets. One of them was for the red mane horse. Qianding River. Back then, I killed meta beasts on this river. Li Zhongjiu thought. However, this time was also a few years in the future. In his previous life, there was once a domineering meta beast on Qianding River. It was good at swimming and had a cruel nature. It liked to eat people. The traffic in the Qianding River was blocked for 3 months. In these 3 months, no one dared to spend time on Qianding River. In the end, the Saint Flame Empire also sent experts over. At the same time, They also recruited experts from various places to deal with the meta beast. Li Zhongjiu needed to refine an elixir, and he needed the meta crystal of a water-attributed meta beast. That was to kill the soul beast. That water demon king shouldn't have appeared so soon. Back then, after the water demon king succeeded, it dove into the water and dived to the bottom. Its whereabouts were unknown, but if someone passed by, it would immediately sense it. Moreover, it swam extremely fast in the water. In order to kill the water demon king, he spent a lot of energy and fought with the water demon king in the water. On the Qianding River, a huge ship was slowly approaching. They could already feel the aura of the ship from afar. It was like a giant beast hiding in the water. It was this aura that caused some of the weaker Yuan beasts to not dare to approach it. Moreover, half of the components of this transport ship came from Cerulean Wave Colossal City's Zheng family. The Zheng family could be said to be a major shipbuilder. Whether it was the ships that flew in the sky or the ships that floated on the sea, they were involved in everything. With these skills and abilities, the Zheng family was enough to become a top-notch existence. It was just that they still needed time. Alright, line up and get on the ship. If anyone dares to snatch it, I will push him off. The dock was also outsourced to the local tycoon. The tickets that were collected had to be paid a huge amount to rent the ship. It was just to make a living. If they were asked to buy such a huge ship, they didn't have the ability to do so. Li Zhongjiu led the horse and boarded the ship. There were almost 300 people on the ship, and they were all crowded in the passageway to board the ship. As for this giant ship, it wouldn't be a problem for it to carry 3,000 people at once. Li Zhongjiu boarded the ship and took the initiative to walk to the deck. The red-maned horse also stepped on the deck easily. The huge waves in front of them swayed, but the ship itself was stable. It was just that the wind on the deck was a little strong. Raise the sail! The crew on the deck shouted loudly, and the huge sail was immediately pulled up. The boats designed by the Zheng family were actually powered by Yuan crystals. However, they couldn't afford to use them like that. The places that sold tickets couldn't afford the consumption of Yuan crystals. Hence, it was better to use the wind power obediently. They would only activate it when they encountered an emergency. Inside the ship's cabin, more than 10 assassins in disguise had also mixed in. However, among the passengers, there was a woman. There was a woman among them. She held a blood-edged long saber in her hand, and her eyes were filled with cold light. She had already noticed the assassins when she boarded the ship. These assassins could be said to be some low-level goods. The murderous aura on their bodies was so obvious that it was impossible for them to hide their identities. At first, she thought that these assassins were here to kill her. It's him. The woman saw the person leading the horse on the deck. Li Zhongjiu. When she saw Li Zhongjiu, she couldn't help but want to cut off Li Zhongjiu's head. If it wasn't for Li Zhongjiu, she wouldn't have to run around like this. Finally, after weighing the pros and cons, she put the blade back on her leg. Li Zhongjiu also sat down cross-legged. This ship would take at least 30 minutes. Hence, there was still some time to rest. When the boat reached the middle of the Qianding River, a few people stood up and groped their way forward from the two sides of the boat. Their goal was to surround Li Zhongjiu from the front and back. The leader also stood up, followed by 7 or 8 people. Their hands were on the daggers in their arms. They slowly walked toward Li Zhongjiu. Attack! The leader immediately gave the order. Everyone was ready to attack. Suddenly, they felt a fishy wind. When the leader of the group turned around, the people around him had already rushed out. However, someone actually attacked him. By the time that man turned around, he saw a woman holding a long blade and slashing toward his neck. Fuck! The assassin immediately fell down, but the opponent's blade was faster. Swoosh! The saber landed on his shoulder, almost cutting off half of his body. Bang! His body fell to the ground. The dozen people rushed toward Li Zhongjiu. Damn it! The woman gritted her teeth. Suddenly, she stomped her foot and attacked. The blade in her hand moved, and with a swoosh, she easily cut down the people in front of her. Bang bang! Be careful! The woman shouted at Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu didn't seem to notice, still sitting in the same place. The woman didn't know if she had made the right choice. This move could have cost her her life, but if she hadn't done so, she would have lost this opportunity. It wouldn't be long before she died on the road. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Li Zongjie opened his eyes. He saw that the people around him had all fallen to the ground. Behind Li Zongjie stood a woman who was holding a long saber that was bleeding non-stop. The passengers and crew in the cabin were scared silly. The woman had killed more than a dozen people in the blink of an eye. It was as if she was cutting grass. She had killed them all. Only the leader clutched his broken shoulder and struggled to lift half of his body. He wanted to see the situation, but all he saw was corpses all over the ground. Li Zongjie was still standing in the same place. "Are you the Bloodstrike guard?" Li Zongjie turned around and saw the woman behind him. Regardless of whether it was the figure or the expression in his eyes, Li Zongjie recognized him with a single glance. The person in front of him was the Blood Robe Guard, who had tried to protect Zhang Yu in the northern Medicine City governor's mansion back then. Unfortunately, Zhang Yu hadn't been strong enough. He had still killed Zhang Yu. If these people hadn't fled, Li Zongjie would have killed them all. He had already noticed this person when he had boarded the ship. She was a Bloodstrike guard with a bronze rank. The murderous aura and blood aura on her body had already reached a restrained level. She was young and could be molded. However, when she saw him, she should have captured him. Why did she help him get rid of these enemies? That's right. Thanks to you, I am being chased by the Bloodstrike guard. Either you kill me today, or I'll follow you, the woman said. Her stubborn eyes were fixed on Li Zongjie. If Li Zongjie hadn't brought her along, a large number of Bloodstrike guards would have found him in less than 3 days. He wouldn't have lived for more than 3 days. Chapter 284. Li Zongjie glanced at the woman before him. "Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you now?" Li Zongjie asked. However, the woman raised her head slightly. One could see the incomparable determination in her eyes. The fact that she was able to become a 3-bronze Bloodstrike guard of Qingyuan Manor at such a young age was enough to show that she had experienced a lot. If she didn't have sufficient talent and determination, it would be difficult for her to persevere. "I'll die sooner or later. If you want to kill me, then I'll die a quick death." There wasn't the slightest bit of fear in her eyes. Although she was already forced into a dead end, she wasn't willing to die like this. This scene reminded Li Zongjie of himself in his previous life. In order to survive, he had also struggled through countless sufferings and tribulations. In the end, he had also become the final winner. Very few people had such perseverance and determination. Most of the time, it depended on luck. Sometimes hard work wasn't enough. It really depended on what kind of person you met. Therefore, when she saw Li Zongjie, the woman didn't hesitate. "What's your name?" Li Zongjie's tone softened a little. It didn't matter to him whether he killed one more person or one less person. Since this person had been a Bloodstrike guard, it would definitely be a pleasant thing for him to turn around and deal with Qingyuan Manor with the blade in her hand. "My code name is Gold Silver Bird." "You don't even have a name?" "Since you're a 3-bronze Bloodstrike guard, then I'll call you Santong from now on," Li Zongjie said indifferently. When she heard Li Zongjie's words, the woman initially didn't dare to believe it. She hadn't expected that Li Zongjie would actually be willing to take her in. One had to know that bringing her along would undoubtedly increase the degree of danger, and the speed at which Qingyuan Manor would find them would also greatly increase. It wouldn't be long before Li Zongjie was caught. Perhaps he would die even faster. After all, both of them were thorns in Qingyuan Villa's eyes. However, this woman had seen Li Zongjie's actions and actually dared to openly confront the Qingyuan Villa. She definitely had her own confidence and strength. It was better than him directly dying like this and wanting to take it. 3 coppers. Could this name be any more casual? However, Santong didn't care. To her, this name was just like her previous code name. It was just a code name. "Santong, thanks, Master. You don't have to call me Master. Just call me Young Master," Li Zongjie said. Santong's desire to live had moved Li Zongjie. Therefore, Li Zongjie wanted to see how far a person could grow with his help. Li Zongjie didn't restrict Santong in any way. If Santong wanted to leave, then he could. If he wanted to kill Li Zongjio, then he could go. Li Zongjio had 10,000 ways to turn Santong into ashes. This point, Santong must be very clear in his heart. Throw these corpses into the river. Li Zongjio said. If this continued, it wouldn't be good. Yes, young master. In less than a minute, more than a dozen corpses were thrown into the river. During this process, the passengers on the ship didn't dare to get close. After all, Li Zongjio and the others were too strange. Based on the way they did things, it was obvious that they weren't ordinary people. Moreover, they had killed so many people. Although they were on a public ship, strictly speaking, they weren't in the city. Unless someone reported the case, and someone came to investigate, Li Zongjio and the others could kill everyone on the ship without a problem. Most of these people were ordinary people. Some of them were just crossing the river to work. They didn't want to cause trouble at all. They just watched as the girl expressionlessly disposed of the corpses. Some of them desperately covered the eyes of their companions, afraid that Santong would remember their faces. They also wanted to show that they didn't see these things. With a loud boom, the ship reached the shore. When the ship reached the shore, the passengers and some of the crew stuck their heads out one by one. However, they found that the boy and girl had already disappeared from the deck. Along the way, Santong bought a horse from a passerby. Along the way, it was common for them to meet caravans by chance. It was also very normal for them to buy some food and other supplies. Of course, Li Zongjio was the one who paid for it. Santong didn't have a single cent on him. As they approached a border town, they came across a roadside shop. The fragrance of noodles wafted over. Li Zongjio wasn't hungry, but when he heard the cold expression on Santong's face, his stomach started to growl. Although the situation was a little awkward, Santong still managed to control his expression. How long has it been since you last ate? Half a month, Santong replied. Half a month. That was about the time Li Zongjio had killed Zhang Yu. It seemed like Santong had encountered a disaster when he had returned. What's so hard about killing someone and robbing them after fleeing for so long? The Bloodstrike Guard isn't a bandit. Our duty is to protect. Santong seemed to choke up as he said this. Unless you were a god, you wouldn't be able to survive without eating for half a month. That's bullshit. Li Zongjio scolded him. Santong looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. He didn't understand why Li Zongjio was so agitated all of a sudden. Remember, being alive is everything. Duty and responsibility are all bullshit. People are already dead, so what's the point of being righteous? Li Zongjio seemed to be deeply moved by this. Although Santong wasn't very happy with his words, he didn't retort. However, he still said this. Santong will remember young master's teachings. Remember, if you reach a dead end, there's no need to be polite. Kill them until they turn the world upside down. Li Zongjio flicked his sleeves and jumped down from the red mane horse. Santong remained seated on his horse as he pondered over Li Zongjio's words. Indeed, Santong's heart was shaken at this moment, and a storm was set off in his heart. Boss, give us 2 bowls of noodles. While Santong and Li Zongjio were eating noodles, a group of people dressed like bandits walked over from afar. They pushed the table and came over in a hustle and bustle. There were many of them. When they saw Li Zongjio sitting at Santong's table, they immediately walked over with great interest. A loud smack was heard. A golden machete was slammed on the table. His iron boots were covered in mud, and he stepped on the stool. There was a green foxtail in his mouth. He sat opposite Santong, while Li Zongjio sat on his right. Oh, what a tender girl. Do you want to play with us? Chapter 285. However, Santong acted as if he did not hear anything. He continued to eat the noodles in his bowl. In such a short time, Santong had already eaten 3 big bowls of noodles. He was definitely able to eat. Boy, is this your girl? She's mine now. Get out of my way. As he spoke, the burly man tried to push Li Zongjio's shoulder. At that moment, Santong made his move. Santong's hand suddenly shot out. Just as the burly man's hand was about to touch Li Zongjio's shoulder, Santong grabbed his hand and twisted it effortlessly. With a snap, The burly man's finger was broken by San Tong. Ah, my hand. You're courting death. In the next moment, San Tong picked up the bowl in front of him and smashed it on the burly man's head. The burly man was directly sent flying by San Tong and fell to the ground. Blood spurted out from his head. You're courting death, stinky girl. The burly man's subordinates saw this and gathered around. San Tong also stood up without hesitation and blocked in front of these people. Just as Li Zongjiu had said earlier, he would turn the world upside down. Cripple this woman and that boy over there. The leader, whose head was smashed, roared. Hearing the leader's order, these people did not hesitate. They all picked up their weapons and charged at San Tong. However, San Tong was faster. Moreover, with her strength as a blood uniform guard, these ordinary bandits were not enough for her to kill. This time, San Tong did not show any mercy. She did not use her blood-rimmed long saber, but a dagger at her waist. In just half a minute, these people's necks had been stabbed. Most of them were not directly killed, but their blood did not stop flowing. It continued to flow through the gaps between their fingers. Some people simply sat on the ground and waited for their deaths. They waited for their blood to continue flowing. Their hearts beat faster as they felt their blood flowing away. Their consciousness gradually became blurry. Don't kill me. The leader, whose head was smashed, lived to the end. He had never seen such a bloody, cruel, and inhumane way of killing people. After cutting open their necks, he watched as their blood flowed out bit by bit. He didn't show any mercy at all. After doing all this, he looked at him very calmly. Speak, who sent you? San Tong said coldly. Her many years of experience as a blood strike guard had taught her that things weren't as simple as they seemed. The assassins on the ship and the robbers in the restaurant had clearly been hired by the same person. Because they all seemed to have a common trait, which was that they were not professional. If it wasn't done by Qingyuan Villa, then it was done by other enemies. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle. Since he was now under Li Zongjiu's command, of course, he had to make some contributions under Li Zongjiu. Otherwise, why would Li Zongjiu bring such a dangerous person with him? It's Bei Ho Liang from Black North Giant City. It was Bei Ho Liang who gave us the money to come. After the leader finished speaking, he felt a chill on his neck. Regardless of whether he spoke or not, his fate would be the same. Blood spurted out from his throat. The leader immediately clutched his throat and pointed at San Tong. His eyes were as wide as copper bells, as if to say, I've already confessed. Why do you still want to kill me? However, his gaze didn't last long. His neck tilted and he fell to the ground. The dozen or so corpses would soon turn cold. Bei Ho Liang from Black North Giant City. San Tong looked at Li Zongjiu. When Li Zongjiu heard this, he didn't seem surprised at all. It was as if he had already guessed it. Let's go. Li Zongjiu spurred his horse and landed on the red-maned horse. San Tong quickly chased after him. The dozen or so corpses on the ground were left there. The owner of the restaurant didn't know what to do. There were so many corpses. And these people were like the kings of the nearby mountains. He had heard about them before, but he hadn't expected that such legendary figures would die in front of his eyes. What should we do? After some preparations. Early in the morning of the second day, several figures appeared in front of the noodle shop. They wore pointed hats and green boots. One of them had a long knife at his waist with 4 copper wires wrapped around the handle. This person's gaze was like a griffin. When he stared at you, you would feel as if a piece of flesh had been dug out from your body. It was so ruthless. Casually looking at the corpses on the ground, they were all killed by a knife at the neck. Clean and neat. Furthermore, before these people died, they also felt the pain of their lives being drained away. This kind of execution-style method, it was incomparably familiar. It's Jin Yinyao's blood-sealing knife. Shopkeeper, where did those people go? Wuxia Pass. There were 70,000 heavy infantrymen and 20,000 cavalry stationed in the pass. Within a day, they could move 300 miles. It would take them less than 3 days to reach the next pass. If the cavalry went first, they would be 1 step faster. Near Wuxia Pass, there were 3 gathering places for origin beasts. These places were extremely dangerous, but at the same time, they were rich in resources. Within Wuding Pass, there were often troops who would be brought to these places for training. Li Zongjiu and San Tong came to the first gathering place for origin beasts. If they wanted to reach Wuding Pass, there were other ways to go around it. However, that would take more time. It would be faster to go through it directly. In front of them was a vast bamboo forest. This bamboo forest was not made of simple bamboo. Other than some emerald green bamboo, there were also some dark red bamboo hidden in it. These bamboos were called blood bamboo. For some bear-type origin beasts, it could be said to be a delicacy. Because of this, in the blood bamboo forest, one could often see some thick stones by the side of the road. Once these stones appeared, it was best to leave immediately and walk as far away as possible, because these stones were actually origin beasts that were dozing off. Once they sensed you approaching, they would definitely bite your neck off. Even the blood mane horse's footsteps slowed down as it slowly moved through the bamboo forest. In addition to the red color of the bamboo, the fallen bamboo leaves were also a faded red. Young master. Suddenly, San Tong stood in front of Li Zongjiu and said softly. Li Zongjiu also stopped in his tracks. In an instant, it was as if a gale had started to blow around the bamboo forest. Roar! It was as if a ferocious beast had woken up and sensed the two's arrival. After this angry roar, it was also a warning to Li Zongjiu and San Tong. It was telling them not to run. Chapter 286. This sudden warning caused the two of them to become alert. Something's not right, San Tong said in a low voice. He suddenly lay on the ground and pressed his ear to the ground, as if he was listening to something. Oh no, at least 7 meta beasts are coming towards us. When San Tong stood up again, the shock on his face was indescribable. Boom! As soon as San Tong finished speaking, the ground in front of them suddenly trembled. 3 huge gray bears leaped from 3 different directions and landed in front of the two of them. When they saw this scene, San Tong was shocked. The violent shaking of the ground almost caused San Tong to lose his balance. His feet shook. However, the aura of the 3 gray bears was what really shocked him. Bloodthirsty silverback bears. The 3 gray bears were actually bloodthirsty silverback bears. Bloodthirsty silverback bears were the ultimate weapons of war among meta beasts. Their skin was thick, and their defense was strong. At the same time, their recovery ability was very strong. As long as they didn't die in a battle, they could recover with a little time. Therefore, their survival rate was very high. In addition, their fighting style was extremely violent. It was like a storm, making it hard to breathe. This was the real terror. These bloodthirsty silverback bears were also extremely explosive. Once they identified a target, it was impossible for them to let go unless they trampled the target into pieces. However, the most important thing was that these bloodthirsty silverback bears rarely acted in groups. San Tong also stood with his saber in hand, staring at the 3 bloodthirsty silverback bears in front of him. The 3 bloodthirsty silverback bears seemed to have come together in an organization. They didn't look like ordinary meta beasts at all. There are still 4 meta beasts hiding in the dark. With my strength, I can at most stop 1 bloodthirsty silverback bear. Later, I'll stop 3 and young master will take the opportunity to leave. San Tong didn't expect to encounter such an unlucky thing. The 3 bloodthirsty silverback bears in front of him were enough to put him in a desperate situation. At most, they could escort Li Zongjiu to safety. If Li Zongjiu could not escape, then both of them would die here. San Tong used to be a bloodstrike guard, so he had naturally undergone strict training to fulfill his duty. Thus, he couldn't just abandon Li Zongjiu and leave. There's no need to leave. Li Zongjiu glanced at the bloodthirsty silverback bears. These bloodthirsty silverback bears were self-proclaimed kings. If they encountered each other, there would be a fierce battle. After all, in the same territory, there could only be one king. If they encountered others of the same kind, they would be regarded as their enemies. The presence of these 3 bloodthirsty silverback bears was enough to explain the situation. These bloodthirsty silverback bears were being controlled by someone. Li Zongjiu quickly figured it out. Thousand Beast Sect? Wuxia City was attacked by someone from the Thousand Beast Sect. Li Zongjio had already forgotten the name of that person. Li Zongjio didn't know how many people like that person had killed, so he didn't deliberately remember it. However, Li Zongjio had also studied Qing Yuan Manor. After all, anyone who was related to Qing Yuan Manor was Li Zongjio's enemy. The Thousand Beasts sect was naturally the first enemy to bear the brunt of this. The Northern Medicine Alliance was just a small medicine alliance. How could it have the shadow of an expert like the Thousand Beasts sect? Thus, there must be a matchmaker behind the scenes. This matchmaker was none other than Qing Yuan Manor. It could be said that the Northern Medicine Alliance was basically under the control of Qing Yuan Manor. Therefore, if they needed to do anything, they only needed to say a word. After the Northern Medicine Alliance was destroyed, the people from the Thousand Beasts sect had also gone to Wuxia City. It wasn't difficult for them to find Li Zongjio. Looking at the current situation, the people from the Thousand Beasts sect must have come looking for him. Are there any sects within 1,000 miles of this place? There are the Thousand Beasts sect, Great Yuan sect and Golden Fate sect within 1,000 miles of this place. Young master, do you mean that the people from the Thousand Beasts sect want to deal with us? Santong's eyes suddenly flashed with astonishment. That's right, the Thousand Beasts sect and Qing Yuan Manor have a lot of dealings. Santong also remembered that he had followed the leader of Qing Yuan Manor on a trip to the Thousand Beasts sect. The Bloodstrike Guards were trained to protect important people with their lives. At the same time, they were also a troop with strong executive ability. Because of this, even though the Bloodstrike Guards weren't very eye-catching and were frequently deployed, they were still in control of certain matters. Therefore, if a Bloodstrike Guard escaped, no matter the price, they had to be pursued to the end. If the Bloodstrike Guards escaped at the slightest provocation, Qing Yuan Manor wouldn't be able to afford it. They had to let the Bloodstrike Guards know. It was impossible for them to escape. Only death would await them. Don't worry, they aren't looking for you. Li Zongjio replied nonchalantly. The three bloodthirsty silverback bears seemed to have been waiting for a long time. When they saw Li Zongjio, they immediately roared and charged at Li Zongjio. Only one of them attacked, while the other two stayed where they were and watched the battle, as if they were cheering for Luo Yunyang. Li Zongjio was incomparably domineering, as if he had an indomitable will. Be careful, these bloodthirsty silverback bears are extremely strong. Their strength alone is comparable to a Sky Origin ancestor. Santong couldn't help but shout when he saw Li Zongjio act so impulsively. However, it was already too late. Li Zongjio threw a punch at the bloodthirsty silverback bear. The bloodthirsty silverback bear also threw a punch at Li Zongjio like a giant hammer. Boom! Li Zongjio's arm snapped with a cracking sound. The bloodthirsty silverback bear roared. Although it had broken Li Zongjio's arm, its own arm had also been severely injured. At the same time, it kicked Li Zongjio and sent him flying. Boom! Li Zongjio flew back. Santong hurriedly stepped forward and tried to help Li Zongjio up. However, Li Zongjio waved his hands and got up from the ground. Their target is me. Hide aside. I'll deal with them myself. Li Zongjio's interest was piqued. He swung his broken arm around a few times, and he was able to move it at will. Santong's astonishing recovery ability was also worthy of praise. Looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, although he was in a sorry state, he was interested and wanted to continue fighting with him. His opponent could have broken his arm with a casual punch. There was such a big gap between them, yet he still wanted to continue fighting. Even if he ran away now, no one would blame him. Santong looked helplessly at Li Zongjio, who was rushing forward again. However, he did not dare to be careless. Instead, he stared at the situation around him very seriously. After all, there were still enemies in the dark. Is that all you've got? In fact, Li Zongjio had not only broken his arm, but also his ribs. However, in just a few breaths, he had basically recovered. Therefore, on the surface, there was nothing abnormal about it. In fact, if it had been an ordinary person, it would have been equivalent to a crippled person. It seemed to have understood Li Zongjio's provocation. The bloodthirsty silverback bear immediately stood up. Its bare claws easily drew 6 gullies on the ground. Seeing Li Zongjio rush forward again, the bloodthirsty silverback bear's bestial nature was completely aroused. It suddenly pounced on Li Zongjio. This time, it did not pounce. Li Zongjio's figure flashed and appeared behind the bloodthirsty silverback bear. He landed on the bloodthirsty silverback bear's back and grabbed a handful of its fur. Then, Li Zongjio's fists continuously landed on the bloodthirsty silverback bear's back. His fists did not stop falling. Similarly, a powerful force was reflected back. The bloodthirsty silverback bear's defense was quite terrifying. Bang, bang, bang. The bloodthirsty silverback bear suddenly rolled in a circle, trying to press Li Zongjio under its body. However, Li Zongjio was pressed under the black bear's body. He felt as if his internal organs were all shattered. Damn, practicing this ancient golden tyrant body art is really not easy. Li Zongjio spat out a mouthful of mud in the dark pit, and then climbed up. The bloodthirsty silverback bear saw that Li Zongjio was still alive. Chapter 287. The bloodthirsty silverback bear flashed its claws. Suddenly it roared, as if it wanted to dig Li Zongjio out. Li Zongjio endured the razor-sharp claws and climbed out of the pit without a care for his own safety. If not for the fact that he had to practice the ancient golden tyrant body technique, he would have killed the bloodthirsty silverback bear a long time ago. Killing such a small bear wasn't difficult for Li Zongjio at all. Li Zongjio's body recovered a couple of times amidst the repeated fractures. Finally he crawled to his feet. When the bloodthirsty silverback bear attacked again, Li Zongjio saw the opportunity and punched the bloodthirsty silverback bear's neck. Suddenly, the bloodthirsty silverback bear's neck was broken by Li Zongjio's terrifying strength. Because after many exchanges, Li Zongjio also found that his body's recovery was too strong. The bloodthirsty silverback bear's attacks didn't have much effect on increasing his cultivation, other than causing him pain. This time, it exploded. Ew! The bloodthirsty silverback bear's body slowly tilted and fell to the ground with a bang, setting off a strong vibration. What? Seeing this scene, Santong was shocked. From Li Zongjio's previous actions, he could see that Li Zongjio seemed to be using the bloodthirsty silverback bear to cultivate something. It also seemed like he was testing something with the bloodthirsty silverback bear. Seeing Li Zongjio easily take down the bloodthirsty silverback bear, Santong's eyes were filled with shock. In fact, when he saw Li Zongjio fight with the bloodthirsty silverback bear, he already knew that Li Zongjio's strength was not simple. How many people could take a punch from a bloodthirsty silverback bear head-on? Even a Sky Origin Ancestor powerhouse wouldn't dare do that. Furthermore, Li Zongjio hadn't even used his Yuan power, which made him even more powerful. Given Li Zongjio's strength, killing a Sky Origin Ancestor powerhouse would be a piece of cake. It was no wonder that he had been able to kill Zhang Yu so easily. If Li Zongjio hadn't killed Zhang Yu, she wouldn't have had to live in exile. However, it wasn't a bad choice for her to choose another path. After the bloodthirsty silverback bear fell, it didn't get up again. A Yuan beast that had actually killed its bloodthirsty silverback bear. When Santong heard this voice, he quickly jumped and chased after the bamboo forest. However, the bloodthirsty silverback bears realized us. They had been watching the battle for a long time. Now that their comrade had been killed, they naturally went berserk. With a loud rumbling sound, two huge bodies chased after him. You overestimate yourself. Li Zongjio shook his arm and twisted his body. When the two bloodthirsty silverback bears chased after him, he instantly leaped into the air and chased after them. Whoosh! His body swayed in an instant. His speed made the bloodthirsty silverback bears' eyes blur. Then they realized that their backs seemed to be loaded with lead. The bodies of the two bears suddenly fell and collided with each other with a loud bang. This degree of impact made the bloodthirsty silverback bear growl. Obviously, the impact of this collision was quite strong. When its body fell, the bloodthirsty silverback bear found that its body could no longer move. Damn it, my silverback bear is injured. Mine too. In the bamboo forest, three figures quickly communicated. However, when Li Zongjio launched his counterattack, the three of them realized that something was wrong. The bloodthirsty silverback bear that had lost control fell to the ground, unable to move. All of a sudden, the three of them became alert. It seemed like someone was approaching them. Die for me. Santong found the three of them. He also understood why the four meta beasts didn't attack. It turned out that they stayed here to protect the three of them. Therefore, they didn't attack. Therefore, when Santong discovered the three of them gathered here, his body leaped up and rushed toward them. He was immediately discovered by the meta beasts that were guarding the area. They saw a pitch-black poisonous snake crawling down from the bamboo. In an instant, it bit at Santong's neck. Santong's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He threw out the long knife in his hand. The poisonous snake bit the long knife and lost the opportunity to attack. After escaping, Santong stepped on the bamboo beside him. In the next moment, his body flew out. Swoosh! Santong was about to fly out and attack the 3,000 beast sect people. He discovered that the poisonous snake that had attacked him just now. He suddenly stretched his body out and immediately pulled Santong to cultivate his chi. Not good. Santong instantly realized that something was wrong, but it was too late. The strength of the snake coiled around his waist was so great that it was about to break his waist. Bang! A black poisonous snake. A level 4 meta beast, red giant prime snake. Santong directly smashed to the ground. He didn't have a defensive technique like Li Zhongjio's, so his internal organs were almost shattered. Santong directly spat out a mouthful of blood. A mere meta beast wants to kill us? Haha, kill her. An old man said indifferently. The one who did this was his meta beast, so naturally, it was enough to be arrogant. This was the red giant prime snake, which was extremely poisonous and good at trapping and killing enemies. Santong was smashed until he almost fainted. The red giant prime snake was still wrapped around him. He couldn't move. At this moment, Santong saw that the red giant prime snake's body was actually more than 10 feet long. Such a long snake. It seemed that he couldn't escape. The vision in front of him gradually turned dark. Just as Santong's vision was about to turn blurry, he heard a soft sound. Then, the hand that was wrapped around his body suddenly loosened. This immediately made Santong gasp for breath. When he opened his eyes, he saw a giant snake's head fall. This head was the red giant prime snake's head. Santong's eyes widened when he saw this. He instantly realized who saved him. Who else could it be? The person who saved him was naturally Li Zhongjio. She saw Li Zhongjio standing at the same spot. In his hand was the blood-edged long knife that she had thrown out earlier. What? Just the three of you old men want to deal with me? Li Zhongjio saw the three figures standing in front of him. Then he looked around, as if looking for the others. Is there no one else in the Thousand Beast sect? Li Zhongjio said indifferently. The three old men heard this, and a cold light flashed in their eyes. Most importantly, one of them was unable to restrain his anger. He pointed at Li Zhongjio and roared. You killed my red giant prime snake. Chapter 288. The Great Red Prime Snake was something he had painstakingly nurtured for many years. It had already grown into a level 4 origin beast. If it could take another step forward, it would immediately become the Great Red Prime Snake King. Then, it would at least be an elder of the assembly within the sect. It would no longer be a deacon. So much so that they had to personally act to capture a brat like him. To them, this was truly a humiliation. You deserve to die 1,000 times over. The deacon pointed at Li Zhongjio as he bellowed. Li Zhongjio was extremely disdainful when he heard this. Do you really think you can decide my life and death? Li Zhongjio's gaze was extremely provocative and disdainful, as if he didn't think much of the three people before him. Santong, who was lying on the ground, regained his consciousness. When he climbed to his feet, he looked at the corpse of the Great Red Prime Snake on the ground, and a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. This was a grade 4 Yuan beast. Yet it was killed so easily. Just how powerful was Li Zhongjio? Go to the side and recuperate. Li Zhongjio flicked an elixir pill over. Santong took the pill that Li Zhongjio had tossed over, and took a closer look. He was immediately attracted by the aura of the elixir pill. This is a level 4 elixir pill. Santong was so shocked that he almost couldn't breathe. The elixir pill in his hand was actually a level 4 elixir pill. Just this fact alone was enough to shock Santong. He had only been following Li Zhongjio for a few days, Yet a healing elixir pill that he had casually given out was actually a level 4 elixir pill. The three people opposite him were also envious. When they saw the elixir pill, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The three of them were all origin ancestors. However, they had only just broken through to the first-grade origin ancestor realm. Furthermore, they were beast tamers and had no way of refining their origin spirits. Therefore, compared to other origin masters, they had fewer tricks up their sleeves. However, they were able to nurture stronger origin beasts. The improvement of their own strength was also very important to them. They practiced the method of communicating with the meta beasts every day and night. Although they wanted to improve their cultivation, it wasn't that easy to break through. The fastest way to become stronger was to consume some pills. Only in this way would they be able to quickly break through and become even more powerful. It's the 3-flower vitality gathering pill. Brat, give me that pill. I can leave your corpse intact. When the 3 old men saw the elixir pill in Santong's hand, their greed was immediately exposed. This grade 4 elixir pill was very expensive. If it was just 1 or 2 of them, there would naturally be no problem. However, cultivation required a huge amount of elixir pills. It was precisely because of this situation that they especially cherished the gains after this battle. Their mission this time was to kill Li Zongjio. In their opinion, this kind of revenge mission was not difficult or profitable, although they did not know why the 3 of them were sent here at the same time. After all, it was a sect mission, and they couldn't shirk it. The 3 bloodthirsty silverback bears were in fact casually controlled, because they were in the mood earlier. After a while, these bloodthirsty silverback bears would become disobedient. This kind of temporary control also had a time limit. If one wanted to control a meta beast, it would be extremely difficult. When they saw the 3-flower vitality gathering pill, they seemed to become more active. The first to make a move wasn't the 3 of them, but Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio sneered and rushed to the side of the bamboo forest. When one of them saw Li Zongjio's actions, he suddenly had a bad premonition. Oh no, my serious poisonous spider! The cry of the serious poisonous spider, which was the Yuan beast he had reared, sounded in his mind. It turned out that the 8 legs of the serious poisonous spider were more than 20 meters long and towered over the bamboo forest. If one didn't get close, it would be difficult to discover that there were such spider legs in the bamboo forest. Li Zongjio's blood-rimmed long saber easily cut off the serious poisonous spider's joints. Bang! The serious poisonous spider landed on the ground and spat out a mouthful of venom at Li Zongjio. At the same time, it was accompanied by spider silk. If one was hit, they would definitely be soaked in the venom until their whole body rotted. Whoosh! No one knew how Li Zongjio did it. He actually appeared behind the serious poisonous spider at an extremely strange speed. With one slash, the serious poisonous spider lost its ability to move. Beep! Li Zongjio looked up and saw that the bamboo forest on both sides had been cut off by a pair of huge wings. He saw a huge bat rushing towards Li Zongjio. The momentum of its dive seemed to be able to split a mountain in half. At the same time, its wings were quite sharp. Good timing. Vajra Bloodbat. Its wings were like Vajra blades, indestructible. At the same time, this bloodbat was good at sucking blood. Among the origin beasts, it was a terrifying killer. As for humans, its venom was completely useless. This was because once it bit down, your head would be gone. This Vajra bloodbat was also the controller of the great red prime snake from before. Kill him! The elder roared angrily. The Vajra bloodbat suddenly sped up and charged towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio faced the Vajra bloodbat and leaped. When the Vajra bloodbat opened its mouth, the blood-rimmed long saber in his hand had already slashed out. Whoosh! The saber landed. With a surge of origin energy, the Vajra bloodbat was instantly split in half by Li Zongjio. There was even a trace of a burn mark on the wound. Not a single drop of blood dripped out. This was because Li Zongjio was in the process. He had used the obsidian fire. The obsidian fire had been infused into the saber technique and was naturally very threatening. The Vajra bloodbat did not even know how it had died. In just half a minute, Another 2 origin ancestor realm origin beasts had been killed. At this moment, the 3 of them finally understood why the sect had sent the 3 of them here. This guy's fighting power is terrifying. Summon the Manta beast immediately. Seeing this, the 3 of them did not have any objections. They immediately connected their powers, and a terrifying power was released from their bodies. Boom! A gust of wind seemed to have appeared on the ground in front of them. When the 3 of them gathered their powers and rushed towards the sky, a figure descended from the sky. Like a meteorite, it fell towards the ground. What? The Manta beast. A half-divine beast with the Titan bloodline. Santong's eyes widened when he heard these people's words. He had never imagined that the 4th origin beast would be the Manta beast. It was no wonder that the 3 of them had to come together. The Manta beast had the Titan bloodline and was extremely difficult to tame. Therefore, it usually required 2 to 3 elders to summon it together. Boom! When the Manta beast landed on the ground, the entire blood bamboo forest shook violently, as if there was a strong earthquake. Chapter 289. A creature with golden fur all over its body appeared in front of Li Zongjio. It looked like a gorilla, but its head was gradually becoming similar to a human's. Most importantly, its large eyes were like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. The terrifying murderous aura contained in his eyes caused others to feel deep fear in their hearts. Manta beast? I don't even know how many of your father's behemoths I have killed. Li Zongjio immediately snorted. The Manta beast seemed to understand Li Zongjio's insult, and it immediately roared. Roar! Then, it waved its iron fist and smashed it towards Li Zongjio. There seemed to be a terrifying aura flowing on its fist. The power on its fist was bursting forth. Before it got close to Li Zongjio, a destructive aura gathered towards Li Zongjio. Under this aura, very few people could withstand it. As the Manta beast's huge fist landed, there was a loud boom, and a wave of energy on the ground quickly spread to Li Zongjio's feet. Li Zongjio's body shot out. However, as he chased after Li Zongjio, the shockwave swept over and rolled Li Zongjio's body to one side. The Manta beast's strength had already reached the level of a 3rd-grade origin ancestor. In terms of combat power, it was even more powerful than Chu Aoran, the sect leader of the Fog Pill sect. Roar! The Manta beast roared again, and its body rose from the ground like a cannonball. It crossed its arms, forming a hammer, and smashed it towards Li Zongjio's body. Suddenly, Li Zongjio was like a rubber ball, and he was instantly sent flying. Bang! Li Zongjio landed heavily on the ground. A deep pit with a radius of nearly 10 feet had been blasted open on the ground. As expected of the Manta beast, such combat power is indeed terrifying. At this moment, the 3 protectors were also extremely shocked. Although the Manta beast was usually trained, it seemed to have been angered today. Therefore, its combat strength was especially terrifying. Even Li Zongjio, who had attacked fiercely, was ruthlessly thrown to the ground. Young master. Looking at the dust rising into the air, Santong could not help but worry. When Santong saw this, he couldn't help but worry for Li Zongjio. At this moment, Li Zongjio didn't know what was going on. The 3-flower soul-gathering pill in his hand was very likely to be a life-saving pill for Santong. If Li Zongjio needed it, Santong would give it to him without hesitation. However, Santong could also feel that Li Zongjio's aura had not weakened at all. The Manta beast, who was standing at the edge of the huge pit, wanted to see Li Zongjio's corpse appear in front of him. However, when the dust settled, he realized that Li Zongjio had already disappeared. Roar! The Manta beast immediately let out a cry of surprise from its throat. Where did that brat go? Could it be? Oh no! One of the old men suddenly realized something. When he raised his head again, he immediately saw a figure falling from a high place. In his hand was a pitch-black iron hammer. Mysterious lightning hammer. Bang! The old man's head instantly exploded like a watermelon, and brain matter splattered everywhere. It directly splashed onto the other 2 old men. The 2 of them were also shocked by the sudden change, and immediately exclaimed, "Ah!" One of them opened his mouth wide. However, in the next second, the mysterious lightning hammer knocked out the entire row of teeth with a bang. The teeth that were knocked out turned into sharp hidden weapons as they rolled out of the mouth and pierced through the organs in the stomach. Puff, puff, puff. 3 of the teeth whistled and directly rushed out and landed on the ground. Fresh blood continuously flowed out from the stomach. The strength of the iron hammer was really too great. You actually dared to kill them. The last old man was stunned and quickly distanced himself from Li Zhongjie. The last person was the one who had previously clamored to kill Li Zhongjie 10,000 times. In order to show his ruthlessness, Li Zhongjie was very willing to let him live in pain. When one was living in fear, one would know that every breath was so difficult. It would be very difficult for one to have the confidence to continue living. Your Mengte beast seems to be waking up soon, Li Zhongjie said indifferently. After killing the 2 people, the Mengte beast seemed to have a headache and did not continue to chase after Li Zhongjie. After all, the Mengte beast needed 3 people to control it at the same time. If any of the 3 people had a problem, the Mengte beast would most likely go out of control. Therefore, the Mengte beast held its head and rolled into the deep pit. Looking at the state of the Mengte beast, the old man knew that he was completely done for. Now, he did not know what he could do to move Li Zhongjie. You, don't come over. You let me go. Let me go. I will give you whatever you want. Obviously, the old man was extremely afraid of death. How could the old man calm down when he saw the 2 living people's heads explode in front of him? Who would have thought that such a situation would occur after he had broken his teeth and swallowed them into his stomach? No one would have thought that he would have a lingering fear when he thought of his own teeth in the future. Who did you say deserved to die? Li Zhongjie said indifferently. He used his sleeve to wipe off the blood on the mysterious lightning hammer in his hand. He seemed to have the intention to stop. It's me. It's me. I deserve to die. I deserve to die. Please forgive me and let me go. We have no enmity between us. I am just working for the sect. Although the 2 meta beasts that he had painstakingly raised were dead, the lives of the meta beasts were not as important as his own life to him. If he died like this, he would rather use all the meta beasts in exchange for his own life. Santong stood in the distance. He, who was familiar with all kinds of situations, could see that Li Zhongjie would not let him live. Li Zhongjie's strength was so terrifying that he could turn the tables in the hands of the 3 deacons of the Thousand Beast sect. Such fighting strength was not something that an ordinary person could imagine. Moreover, the Mengte beast might not be Li Zhongjie's opponent. However, Li Zhongjie chose a simpler way to solve the problem. You don't need to die. Dying once is enough. Li Zhongjie helped the old man up from the ground. Then, he placed a palm on the old man's back. Instantly, a huge force sent the old man flying. A surge of origin energy sealed all the major acupuncture points in his body, causing the old man to be unable to use his origin energy. He could only let the origin energy take him away. The direction he was flying towards was the deep pit where the Mengte beast was rolling. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.